Okay, the December 11th meeting of the Corvallis School Board is now called to order at 6:32 p.m. To support the health and safety of all community members, particularly those who are immunocompromised and their families, the board continues to offer a virtual participation option for board members and district staff. Public comment is available at select meetings, both in person and virtually. Details on how to provide public comment are available on the Corvallis School District website. Tonight's agenda, board packet, and a link to the district's YouTube channel can be found on the school board page of the website. All public meetings are live streamed on YouTube, and the recordings are typically posted the following day. Tonight we have all board members in attendance, and the first item on the agenda is board member reports. Do we have any board member reports? Bernie?
Yeah, a couple of things. Over the last couple of weeks, I had the chance to attend the TDAC meeting, Theater Diversity Advisory Committee. I was really excited to see new members from the community coming in with great ideas to support our theater program. And a good reminder, too, that the theater program isn't just about actors, but also the technical people, and there's so many opportunities to do that. I also attended the audition for Footloose, and again, looking at the talent we have in the district, that's absolutely wonderful. Again, and I know it's going to be a good show come February, I think. Also, I was invited to take a tour of the Boys and Girls Club by the executive director, and it was a very enlightening, and I was just blown away by how much they do and how much their work complements with our districts. And I really encourage other board members, if you haven't had a chance. I know they, Helen said, you guys are all welcome to come visit. So please take a look at that. And then I'm sure everybody else will be mentioning this, but last night we had a great District Equity Committee meeting, and I'll leave it for somebody else. Thanks.
Judah?
Since last report, I had the opportunity to go to CHS and meet with their leadership group, and that was just wonderful. And thank you so much for the invitation. I'm sitting next to the people who invited me, and that was wonderful. And on Tuesday, I had the opportunity to attend a series about healthcare education, about upcoming changes and things that will be impacting the district due to federal policy changes.
Cool. Chris?
Yeah, a couple things. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Bridges program next door. I've been able to visit mostly the staff, not so much the school, but the staff, and just hearing all the wonderful things that they're doing there, and just such great the staff just working so well together and just doing some really great work. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to that. And then I don't think, have we met since we did the middle and high school school improvement? That was just, again, it's one of my favorite meetings, and I was so appreciative of all the administrators and their team just being so positive, and such a positive push towards equity and connections in their schools, and I just really appreciated that. And then also just really using the Youth Truth data. I know there's some things that with Youth Truth that can improve, but I just think it's great with what they do with the data that they get. I also just wanted to give a little shout out to I don't remember what it's called, but it's the reading program where people come into the elementary schools with their dogs and read. And I've heard that there might be some changes with that, but I just wanted to give a shout out to that because I know that they've been doing some great work. And then I did attend the district's equity team meeting yesterday, and again, I always feel so honored being there, and I learned so much. And they had a presentation by Dr. Lakes, who did an amazing job just really making us all think about not just talking about equity, but really thinking deep and profound about the work and our experiences as whoever we are. And I just Marcianne did an amazing job creating that meeting last night, and having Dr. Lakes there was very powerful.
Shauna?
Sure, I have a couple of things to share. I wanted to thank Katie Kinney for inviting me to the mariachi concert a couple of weeks ago at Garfield, which had students from both Garfield as well as Linus Pauling, and really being able to see their excitement and joy, families there celebrating through music was really, really wonderful. So got to see both Katie Kinney and Valerie Goldman in their leadership there with those programs. I missed the high school mariachi club concert, which I believe was last week. I know that that's ongoing with a lot of care and support from Mr. Lovetang, I believe, over his lunchtime to make that happen. I know that CHS also has a band concert tonight, so I'm sorry we're missing that, but just a shout out to music teachers across the district and really that appreciation for them sending us invitations when concerts come up. I had a chance on Saturday to volunteer with the CV and CHS speech and debate teams. They had a tournament up in Clackamas, or at Clackamas High School, and Casey Purley really is devoting and dedicating a lot of his after-school time, several days a week, to creating an incredible and supportive space for students. And it's a really wonderful opportunity it was my first time being a volunteer judge for speech and debate, and to be able to go and hear what high schoolers are thinking about, talking about, writing about, the ways that they are expressing themselves just gives so much hope for where we are in society and the leaders of our future. So that was just an incredible experience to go and be there with them and see that work happening. I also had a chance to attend innovation team meetings over the last couple of weeks and have really appreciated the careful and thoughtful work that's happening across the district to think about student experience now and moving forward, and the process for brainstorming, thinking through what's possible, what's feasible, bringing that out for feedback and the iterative process that we're seeing happen. And then I also was part of the equity team meeting last night and also appreciated the facilitated space by Dr. Lake, as well as the deep connections that are happening between district staff, board members, community partners, and others to really think about how we create educational spaces and community connections that are really, really deeply meaningful.
Therese?
2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend the Corvallis Public Schools Foundation meeting. It's always a great opportunity to hear from them. There's a wonderful, committed group of volunteers that spend a lot of time trying to energize our community and find creative ways to support our students in the classroom and learning and our staff. I was excited to hear about their plans for expanding the innovation support that they do with the YAY grants, and they're gearing up for the Hands Across Corvallis. So just hearing a little bit of the organizing and the effort behind that to make sure that they get the word out widely in the community. If you haven't yet been invited to somebody's table, then someone's got to have a spot, right? So make sure that you can get there for that. And just a little preview of what they're planning for that particular event. It's always a great opportunity to come and hear about their work and how it supports our student learning. And then the only other thing is that I was excited to go by Osborne and see our swim team practicing outside, but practicing. Looked very cold, but they were working very hard. So that's really exciting, having not had the swim team in that space for a while, to have them back there making use of that community facility again. So, yeah.
Sammy?
Thank you. I want to echo the excitement that I have from the meeting that we just had with the principals of the schools, and the highlights that I want to share from that meeting, and also conversations with staff since then, is the professional development opportunities that our staff are getting for the best practices in reading, best practices in math education, best practices in helping and supporting our students navigating special education needs. So really appreciative of those investments and programs that our staff are navigating this year. I want to also highlight something that is probably not purely school board or school district, but on school district property, and was a really great highlight, which is yesterday Ward 3 community meeting with the city councilor and city staff were there at Lincoln School. They hosted us at Lincoln School, and the cafeteria commons area was completely full. I want to appreciate the staff who were there to support the event and help with the chairs. And it reminds me when I went to a rural community and they said, Sam, when you say the school is the center of the community in rural schools, the school is the community. It was a reminder that in that situation, the school is the community, even in Corvallis. And I was really appreciative that this property is being used for the community neighborhood.
Thanks, y'all. I had a couple of things too. I was able to attend the Indian Education Fall Gathering. That was really fun, and it was great to see students and families attend that. And I know that they usually get more people signed up for the program. And again, for folk that don't know what that is, that's the Title VI Indian Education Grant. So we get federal funding in to support that program. And each time more students sign up, that's helpful for the following year. Also presented with Ryan at the Oregon School Law Conference about board and superintendent working agreement. So that was nice to kind of talk about some of our work that we do in Corvallis in supporting those working agreements. And I went to some of the innovation team meetings. I couldn't go to all of the meetings for the whole time because of my teaching schedule, but I was able to go to at least parts of them, and then this last one. And I was really excited to apply for and be awarded a scholarship to go to the NSBA Advocacy Institute in DC. So that's really great training for doing political advocacy here locally at no cost to our district, to help support the work of the district here with political advocacy. So I was really excited to get that scholarship. And lastly, I didn't go to the equity meeting because I was at the Linus Pauling concert, and I was really excited to go support that. I don't have a kid that plays in their band, but it was nice to go support it. And Principal Hyde did mention that they intentionally did move their concerts based on our feedback from last year. So I just wanted to highlight that for other board members to consider the middle school band concerts as well, since they did move them. And so I was really happy to go support last night, and they sounded really great. I was like, oh. And it really highlights the importance of the music programs across all age groups here in Corvallis. So with that being said, next item on the agenda is the OSBA and NSBA updates. I don't know if you have any updates, Sammy. I didn't prepare updates for OSBA, but if you have some, you can do NSBA, or if you have OSBA as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. So I want to share from NSBA very exciting updates for Oregon. For the past 2 or 3 years, Congress did not pass or continue the authorization of rural schools, secure rural schools. As a background, secure rural schools is funding that the federal government committed to counties and school districts that relied on timber harvest revenue that the federal government was getting. And when the timber industry revenues declined, secure rural schools have proven to be very essential and a lifeline for many communities for essential services, including funding schools. It's not enough and sufficient, but it helps. And of course, we all share the same pot across Oregon. So those revenues helping rural schools help us by proxy as well. And it was really devastating to see that authorization not continue in the House for a while. This week, the House voted on the Senate bill, so it's either headed to the president's signature or it's been signed. And I'm really grateful for the advocacy of our colleagues, you and many colleagues across Oregon and the nation advocating for it. Especially Oregon and Idaho benefit more than other states. So the advocacy of Senator Wyden, first and foremost, and the Oregon delegation, including our Congresswoman Val Hoyle and Cliff Bentz, Representative Cliff Bentz from the eastern side of the Cascades as well, voting for it. So just want to highlight that. It's very important. And if you have a moment to share the gratitude for our congressional representatives or their staff, it will go a long way. Speaking of the National Advocacy Institute, I look forward to joining Lou as well. And for the rest of you, if you would like to attend some advocacy opportunities, NSBA is sharing for the first time the opportunity to leading up to that event is virtual training sessions once a week over the course of January, and it was initially intended for those who will attend DC, but I suggested they open it up for all our members of state associations, so including Corvallis School Board members. So I will share that over an email if you'd like to register. It should be during lunch break. Probably not our lunch break, but it is something that would be very useful to know about opportunities to advocate and how to advocate and high interest topics that our school district share with other school districts. I think that's my update. Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. The next thing on the agenda is the superintendent's report, so I'm going to hand it over to Ryan.
So a couple things I wanted to share with you. The first is several of you mentioned the scorecard dinners that happened last month. We have another round of those next Thursday night with our elementary schools. So that board packet will come out on Friday with that information for you to review ahead of those opportunities to spend time talking with our elementary principals about the work that's underway in their buildings. Also, after the decision on consolidation, a lot of work has taken place. And I'm going to just list out a few of those things that have happened thus far. On our district website, the boundary locator tool, which gives you information about where your child's school is, has been updated for 26-27. Also this week, we made announcements regarding principal placement for next year. We appreciate the work that our principals have done, and at the same time recognizing that having too fewer principals is a big deal, and those folks have done a fantastic job. And so just kind of keeping them in mind, especially as we move into the SIP dinner or the scorecard dinners next Thursday night. Also, we've been working on the transfer windows, having an early and a regular transfer window. That information will come out soon to families. And with that prioritization for Letitia Carson and Sheldon students and their kindergarten siblings. Again, that information will still come out later this month. Transition teams are beginning to form at our schools where the majority of change is happening. These teams will work on legacy projects, school memorabilia, and end-of-year school events and celebrations. We are also working to develop student transition plans, and more information will be coming out about that in January, supporting students who are transitioning between the schools. Finally, next Tuesday, we have, along with the Corvallis Public Schools Foundation, invited in industry leaders to talk about the skills our students need to have as they leave our system. So again, that's part of that portrait of a graduate conversation. And so the foundation helped to bring in industry leaders to meet with district staff to talk through that. And so that's going to be happening next Tuesday during the day. So those are all things that have happened over the last month that I think are important to note and for our community to know. Also, next week, we're going to begin our summer school planning. So again, appreciation to the foundation for the support they give financially to make summer programming happen, the ability for our high school students to earn credits over the summer to either stay on track to graduate or get those final credits that they need to successfully move forward. So again, the foundation has been a great partner, and we begin planning that now for the summer. And then finally, also back to theater. This weekend is the opening weekend for CV's high school production of A Christmas Story. Shows are December 12th, 13th, 19th, and 20th at 7 p.m. and December 14th at 2:30 for a matinee. And you can, from the link from my Soups report, is a spot where you can buy tickets for that, or you can buy them at the door. And then finally, our two CHS representatives, both named Thomas, tonight they put a QR code out there. If folks want to participate in Winter Smiles, there's still an opportunity to do that. So those are all, I think, things that are important for our community to be aware of, and some of the highlights that are happening over the next couple weeks.
Chair, would you be able to provide a point of privilege to allow CHS to make their student reports? I don't see it on the agenda.
They don't have reports this time, but if you all had something you needed to share, that is fine. Yeah.
Oh, thank you
Yeah,
for having me.
can we ask Ryan questions first?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yes, thanks.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Ryan, thanks so much for the update. I have a question that I'd love to ask, and I know I had a chance to just to ask you in passing,
Yeah.
but I think it's something important for the community to hear a response to. You mentioned working on transfer windows with prioritization of families who have been impacted and will be impacted by school closures and consolidation.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about that transfer window aligning with when information will be available to the community to understand what athletics will look like, what music programs will look like in K through 6 versus K through 8 models, so that families have the information they need to make effective choices then.
Yeah.
Is there planning that's happening to make sure that those
Yeah,
are aligned?
Yeah, we're doing our best to do that. And the other thing is that we are currently underway with, I tried to say just with the high points, but I've met with our athletic directors to talk about middle school sports. Our innovation team has been talking about orchestra and band. We have also spent time working through some of the transportation pieces. So all those things are also happening right now. Today we met with our association to talk about schedules and what potential schedules could look like for next year, both in the K6s, the 7-8, and the K8s. So all of those things are also happening. So we're working really hard to time things in a productive way, but we're working so quickly to try to get those answers that we're going to continue to sort of, we don't want to put information out about dates until we feel really solid about the information that we have.
Great, but just to confirm that the hope is that that kind of information will be available for families in that priority window so that they can make those choices.
And staff as well. Tomorrow we'll send out a preference form to staff asking about their preference for next school year. And we want that will be open for a period of time so that they also have a better understanding about what the programming will look like as they're making decisions too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Thomas.
Thank you. CHS's annual Winter Smiles program is in full swing. This is a long-running student-led project where our leadership students organize gifts, food, clothing, and essential supplies for CHS families who need support during the holidays. Last year, we served 35 families, including several who were living in cars, hotels, or temporary shelters. As this year's drive continues, we want to encourage the community to participate. Donations of items are always welcome, but financial contributions make the biggest difference because they allow us to fill specific needs quickly and fairly. If anyone is interested in donating, they can reach out to our fiscal clerk, Jen Carr, or scan the QR code on the entry table. I also want to highlight the role of students. Winter Smiles is entirely organized by our leadership team. They coordinate outreach, gather supplies, and assemble the care packages. It's one of the clearest examples of our students stepping up to support the community, and we're proud of their work. Thank you guys for your continued support of CHS.
Thanks, Thomas. And I wanted to thank Judah, too, for helping organize for the board to contribute to the program this year as well, in our individual capacities, not from board funds, just so it's clear. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. We will, and we're not that far behind, that's awesome. We'll now open the public comment period. We value the lived experiences of students, families, staff, and the community, and welcome public comment as an essential part of the district and board's work. The complete guidelines for public comment are available at the registration table outside the boardroom entrance and on the board's website. I will now share some important points. When it is your turn to speak, please come forward, take a seat, and direct your comments to the board. And you need to turn on the microphone with the little person button, and this turns red. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning individual district personnel. As a reminder, you will have 3 minutes to make your comments. The lights turn on. It's green when your time starts at 3 minutes. 30 seconds is yellow, and then red, your time's up, at which time I will need to ask you to stop speaking. And following your comments, the board will have 3 minutes to ask clarifying questions, but are not able to engage in direct conversation. I know that is the most difficult part for community members and the board, because we like to have conversations and we cannot in this format. So just wanted to remind everybody of that. If board members would like to revisit a topic or issue brought up during public comment, they may do so at the appropriate time in the agenda. which is during board member comments, as a reminder for the board. Before you start your comments, please state your name for the record and state whether you reside within the school district boundary. And Kim's going to read the first person.
My name is Will Rotenkolber, and I reside within the district. And I came tonight because I'm still concerned about the consolidation plan. There are a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of concern in the community about things that are deemed operational and not within the purview of this board, but are still serious concerns with the community, like transportation and capacity in our facilities, communicating with the fire department and the city council and ODOT and other organizations that are going to be impacted by this decision, not to mention parents and students. I heard a lot of board comments about the great things about equity and the great things about having schools be community centers. None of that was considered when those schools were slated to be closed. Nobody talked about real serious equity. The stoplight report was completely based off of convenience. That was the metric that was used to rank the choices, was which was more convenient. And now we're going to muddle through the hard choices and decisions that have to be made to make this work. As one other fellow parent put it, you can't shoot arrows and then draw targets around them. That's not how this works. You can't just keep hoping. We got to get off the hopium. Drugs are bad. I mean, I went through the DARE phase of education. You guys are living on hopium that this is going to somehow work out at the end of the day. It's not working out. You have 19 classrooms at Betsy Coleman, and you have almost 500 plus students projected to go there. The fire marshal's concerned about capacity, not to mention all the parents and students and teachers. You're looking at having to put multiple portable classrooms in the playground to house students from K-6. And then how are they going to actually participate in the playground? And what are the optics of having a multi-million-dollar, hundreds of million-dollar bond to rebuild schools, and then their kids are in portables in the playground? That doesn't look very good. That's not planning on your guys' part. And I know some of you weren't on the board, and all things change, but you're on the board now, and you guys need to make these decisions. I ask that you revisit this proposal since the funding change from the state has been improved. There is still time to revisit and actually have a thorough process. Thank you.
Is there any questions from the board? Thank you for your time, Will.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, board. My name is Michael Eller, and I am a parent here with my wife with 4 children in the school district. 4 weeks ago, after midnight, the board voted 6-1 to close the Sheldon Middle and Letitia Carson Elementary. The main reason for this was to address our district's projected budget shortfall that stemmed from the state's projected $373 million deficit for our current biennium. We were facing a $4 million deficit for the next school year. This was the driver to push through on this decision after several hours, right? Even after several board members had admitted that this may have been an ill-advised, or they may have ill-advised Superintendent Noss on the school closure criteria. After hours of public comment, this decision was made with an unwillingness to pause and do the necessary work to develop a comprehensive plan that's really needed now. Less than a week later, in the quarterly update, the state revised this forecast, really to the surprise of everyone, myself included, the deficit dropped by 83%. It went from 373 million to 63 million. For our district, that means that our projected budget shortfall is less than $1 million. This is far less than the $4 million gap that we were looking to close with the closure of 2 schools, and it's less than the outstanding deficit that was going to remain. This is really good news. It really is. And it gives us time and it gives us resources to pause, to work with the city, to work with staff, and with this community to come up with a comprehensive plan for future school consolidations. We know it doesn't stop here. This is an unexpected gift, and it provides an opportunity to do the right thing right now. Emily Nischik of the Oregon School Boards Association, she said that with this improved forecast, there is now time to develop thoughtful plans for how to navigate increasingly tight budgets in the coming biennia. The choice to make cuts now would be just that, a choice. Yes, challenges are going to remain for future school years, and difficult decisions are going to be made. But don't you think that these can be addressed with a better plan that is supported by the community? Closing these schools for the next school year is not a necessity, it is a choice. You have chosen a short-sighted plan that will not help our students or our staff thrive in the long run. A plan that Superintendent Noss commented is not perfect, but it can be made better. There's a Japanese saying that if you get on the wrong train, get off at the nearest station. The longer you wait, the more expensive the return trip will be. The next station is right here. There may not be many stations left, so how will you act? Your commanding message from November 13th is that you care more about staff than buildings. This is your opportunity to show it. Do you stick with your current decision, knowing the flaws and that it now needlessly cuts 18 staff positions?
Michael, your time's up. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good. Thank you.
Any questions? Shauna?
I'll just ask Michael, did you have a final point that you hope to make?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think that there is an opportunity here to really develop a comprehensive plan that's going to carry and prepare our district for the years to come. This is just a reaction plan. We need a longer plan. I'll just close on that. And please, this is your time to lead and act. Be wise, be courageous. That's what we're asking you to do. So, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Thank you so much for your time, Michael.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heather Latterback. With this new consolidation plan, my family that lives east of downtown will be forced to drive past 4 closer schools, 2 DLI programs, 1 school of choice, and now 1 school closed, just to reach our new assigned school. I remain deeply concerned about both the process and the outcome of this decision. The narrative and questions posed by the board, keeping a building or keeping the programs, was misleading and irresponsible. This false dichotomy leads people to believe that there are no other alternatives. The community stated many times that if the process was done correctly, they would support it, even if the outcome ended the same. Yet, this was disregarded multiple times. It is still unclear to me what these programs are that we have saved. Making such a consequential decision after midnight under immense pressure from fellow board members was inappropriate. In May, during the budget meeting, the board recognized the importance and suspended a vote after 10 p.m. until the following week. Why was the same consideration not given here, especially with new state funding forecasts arriving just 6 days later? Our district deserves decisions rooted in long-term vision, not short-term fixes. The board's stated goal of equitable systems must be revisited. Equitable systems don't overcrowd some schools and leave others underutilized. They don't disproportionately burden low-income families with longer commutes and fewer resources. This consolidation widens inequities instead of closing them. Respectfully, I ask each of you to update your goals to reflect your actions. There are still major gaps in this approved plan. Unsafe traffic plans, dangerous intersections, overcrowded schools, cafeteria pickup zones. These new problems created by solving another do not justify the means. I respect the trust you place in your superintendent, but giving him only 1 month for the first proposal and 3 weeks for the revision set him up for failure. True respect would mean allowing him and the district time to meet with city partners, transportation planners, and community before finalizing these sweeping changes. The questions and concerns from the community are valid, and many can't be addressed before next fall. The urgency the board felt to act is no longer a factor. With the new state forecasted funding available, we have time to pause, reassess, and create a thoughtful, community-driven plan, one that addresses a larger deficit and avoids repeating this reactionary process again in a few years. Why rush into a Band-Aid fix when we can take time to do this right? Leadership must reflect community values and hold accountable for promises
Heather,
made.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
That's great. Thank you.
Any questions? Chris?
Heather, do you have a final comment that you
Oh,
wanna
I
make?
just, one of the promises that was made was the support of Letitia Carson and Sheldon. But yet in the board reports, I didn't hear any of those school names. And post-decision the morning after, I didn't hear of anyone at the schools. So just following through with those promises.
Any other questions? Good, Sammy?
Thank you, Chair. Heather, thank you for the comment. I'm trying to understand the statement around when there is a false dichotomy that you characterize the programs versus buildings. I usually see there is a third factor not being considered. And the way I want to ask you, when there is a finite resource budget and you spend it on programs, buildings, both, and you need to balance between both, how do you see, what's the third element that we don't see that creates a false dichotomy?
The budget was never revisited, so the last budget committing was in May of the previous year before consolidation was on the table. So saying a building or teachers versus programs makes it appear that no other considerations or format, rebounding were on the table.
Thank you for your answer. Appreciate it.
Shauna?
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate the reminders. And I was just going to ask, were you aware that there was a request that came to the board to wait and give time before visiting each of the school communities?
I wasn't. Thank you for notifying me.
Of course.
I did forget to put that in my, I'll do that after, sorry. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heather, for your time.
I had a feeling it would be me next. Is this on? Yes, we are. Okay. I'm Jessie Beasley. I live in the district. I know members of this board brought up that if the district were not going to be in such a deficit for the coming year, they would not have approved the revised proposal. I suggest that the board motion to reconsider the proposal based on the most current financial information. Please use this year to properly realign boundaries so that consolidation can happen at the same time as boundary changes for the following year. I appreciate those board members who recognized the need for boundary changes to rebalance the school's capacities during the last board meeting, especially concerning the discrepancies between the two new schools with Bessie Coleman at well over 500 students and Lincoln at around 360 based on the current projections. It is not satisfactory to avoid boundary realignment due to the open transfer policy option. There are too many buildings at or beyond capacity for the transfer system to work effectively anymore. Families want to attend schools that are not overcrowded and that are close to where they live. The boundaries should aim to fix these issues. The school district solution has created logistical issues for students, families, and community members around traffic flow, which the school district has not cared to consider, taken responsibility for, or tried to solve. Instead, it is pushing the problem it has created onto the city of Corvallis. It should not be the city's responsibility to fix problems that the district creates and can solve itself, but is unwilling. As a school board, you have the ability to fix some of these issues by calling for boundary changes now.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Jesse, for your time.
I'm red. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, board. My name is Julie Alexander. I reside in the district. I'm sure it's not going to surprise any of you that my comment tonight centers around capacity. I don't think there has been enough discussion and consideration regarding the impacts on programming and student experience when operations will be over target capacity. The revised proposal will push several schools well over the target capacities. And it's clear that exceeding target is not ideal. And in fact, when the original proposal was presented, district leadership specifically highlighted or championed actually that no school would exceed 90% utilization following consolidation. And that was a positive selling point, right? And this really hasn't been similarly balanced for the revised proposal. But we have this great opportunity to mitigate that now. And I would encourage you to do that. The main rationale behind the yes votes last month centered on the need for fiscal responsibility. We heard that, we believe you, but things have changed. Given the recent state revenue indicating that we may have some breathing room, I would just really urge you to consider whether this is still the right plan. I would love to see a more long-term plan considered now that we have this breathing room, consider all of the closures that we're looking at down the barrel and hit the district once with that. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Sammy?
Julie, thank you for the comments. I'm going to ask a data wonky question because I know you.
I love data. Yes.
You want to take that. So the target is the best practice targets is 90% of the full capacity of the building, and accommodates elementary, middle, high school variances based on programming needs. My question to you, we saw in the proposal, one of them was forecasting about 101 and 102 of the 90%. Is there a variance that you're comfortable with that you think operationally is practical to say, are you thinking about don't go above 1%, don't go above 10%?
I mean, I always go back to disease transmission, right? When I think about elementary school age kids, and I know I beat this dead horse before, but they're incredible vectors. And I think the biggest buffer that you can have and still stay within your budget is a really smart move. Distance is important. Kids are, I mean, ask teachers. They have incredible immune systems. There's all kinds of other reasons, though, to not go up to the maximum absolute capacity that you can cram kids into if you have the breathing room. I understand when budgets say otherwise, but I feel like we have that breathing room now, and we don't need to move forward yet. We can move forward with a better plan. Rebalance first. And if that still means Letitia Carson closes at the end, I will accept that, but I would love to see you reboundary first. It's the equitable solution.
Thank you.
Yep.
If I may ask you, so one of the elements is transmissibility and students being close to each other. So what I'm hearing from you, is it fair to speculate that you care also about class size as much as the entire enrollment in the school? Both needs to be considered in our oversight. Is that what maybe I can extrapolate is correct?
I'm in favor of class size caps, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? We reset the clock because it was a little, yeah, just making sure people were clear what happened there with the thing.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Julie, for your time. Okay. Okay, that's the last comment, Kim. Hearing no further comments, the public comment period is now closed. I did want to just take a really quick, because we are ahead of schedule, and mention and also apologize to Letitia Carson Communities for not highlighting that I did attend a Letitia Carson event last month. They invited me earlier in the fall to be a speaker for Native American Heritage Month, and I talked to some of the staff and folk, and I know there was the ask and making sure that was still on what they wanted to do, and they said yeah. And so it was really great to be able to talk to all the kids in the whole school and taught them a little bit of Chinekwawa, which is the local language, and showed a film with one of my colleagues from the Grand Ronde tribes on Mary's Peak and the history of language, and they had read the land acknowledgement, so it was really helping connect some of those pieces of what, and it was just fell into place really perfectly and beautifully, and I didn't even collaborate with the students who read the land acknowledgement, so and so I just wanted to share that I was really happy to be able to go do that, and they were very welcoming too. So just wanted to add that to my report and apologize for not including it. It's hard to keep track of all of our things. So yeah, thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is this. Oh, is that right? The school investment? Oh, I was writing notes in the wrong spot. Oh my gosh. The bias reporting update, and that's Melissa and Byron.
I thought I did. I said I am screen sharing. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting us up. You know me, and this is Byron, and you've met him quite a bit this year so far. Byron and I are working really closely together on both aspects of bias incident response. I'm still continuing to focus as assistant superintendent on the bias incident reporting and follow-up investigation, those kinds of things. Byron's going to talk to you a little bit later about some proactive work that we're doing as a school district with our leaders. So tonight I would like to point you back to the board report that I submitted. It has some data on it. We've done this before. I like to use the slideshow to kind of highlight some data and talk a little bit more about it. So that's what I'm about to do. The goals that you see here on the slideshow are goals that we have for the bias incident response team. Our bias incident response team includes myself and Byron, also Marcianne, and Rinda Gregory, who is our civil rights coordinator, Title IX coordinator. So together we meet quarterly to talk about how we're doing, what things we have coming up for presentations or data collection, and any kind of special requests we get from schools. We're about to do a special request at one particular school to take a look at their historical data with regard to bias incidents. So the goals you see here on the presentation include, for us, interrupting bias while it's occurring, and also supporting the student who's been harmed by bias. These are goals that we're going to address again in our mid-year staff training on bias incident response. Goal 3 is providing educational opportunities for all students. That's not only the preventative equity lessons and advisor lessons, but also what we do when students cause harm and how we do some reteaching and education. And then the last goal, number 4, is about showing all students that their school takes incidents seriously. This again came from CHS a couple of years ago as kind of a rallying cry for us to do more, so that they know that things are happening that should be happening in response to bias incidents. And we have been doing a lot with that and pushing our administrators a little bit more there too. I gave you some data in the board report that last year we had 293 founded bias incidents, and of those bias incidents, 86 of those were reported anonymously. We've talked a lot about how important anonymous reporting is. It continues to remain important for our students and for our staff, to support our students in filing bias reports. Students or anyone who files a bias incident who does so anonymously is aware that they won't be followed up with, but but that they just want to let us know what is happening, and that's really important for us to be aware of. I thought this in the blue box was really important too. When we talk about reporters, who is reporting bias incidents, you'll see that there was a huge jump with staff reporting incidents this last year. And that is like by 14% of our reporters. I thought it was interesting to note that our staff not only are the largest group of reporters, but more than half of those staff reported on the behalf of a student. So a lot of students are coming to staff and saying, can you support me in filing this report? And the majority of those reports where they were supporting a student happened in elementary school. So we're also seeing an increase in elementary school. Well, let's see. Oh no, it's not in there. We're gonna look at another slide for that. But we saw a little bit of an increase with students in elementary school and reports there. Oh, sorry, wrong button. Types of bias were also outlined in the board report. So you'll see here that 52% of our bias incident reports were had to do with race. And then you see the continuing percentages for LGBTQ+, disability, and religion. If you look at the board report, you get a 3-year view, so you can kind of see what the trends are there. Interesting information to take a look at. I know that a lot of times the questions are, so what is the most common bias report? And so I have those up here. Again, for the third year in a row, the use of the N-word or the N-slur is the most common racial submission. The use of gay as a slur is the most common LGBTQ submission. The most common religious submission has to do with drawing swastikas on things, finding swastikas written on things. And the most common disability submission this last year was mocking a disability, so making fun of a student with a disability. I wanted to talk a little bit about the N-word. We've talked about this before, and my assistant Kristen did some digging into the data, and she wanted to take a look at, we had questions like, who is doing, what is the racial profile of a person who is doing this, and who is the person who is being harmed? So she took a look at those incidents from last year. We had 62 total incidents of one student saying the N-word to another student. Of those 62 total incidents, 4 of the people causing harm, their race was not clear in the reporting, or that was just, that part wasn't clear. 6 of those students who were causing harm by saying the N-word were Black, and the rest of those students who used the N-word and caused harm with it were not Black. So that gives you an idea of numbers. When she looked at students who were harmed, so the flip side of those incidents, of the 62 total incidents, 28 of the students who were harmed were Black. 8 of those 8 students among that 62, it wasn't clear what their racial makeup was, but the remaining were definitely not Black. So just some information to kind of look a little bit deeper at our concern with students using the N-word, how they're using the N-word, who's saying it, who are they saying it to. When we look at impact by level, we're looking at pretty similar findings. This is the slide I was talking about a second ago. Our elementary students increased from 30 to 38% for reporters, and I think that has a lot to do with how they're able to use adults in their system to file those bias incident reports. Our numbers in middle school dropped a little bit, and our numbers last year in high school are still pretty low. 12% of all of our reports came from the high school. I'm going to pass it on to Byron now to talk about next steps.
All right. So we just jumped right in with the data and all of those, here, totally, and in there. And we look at this often and have these discussions often, and it's still, for lots of groups and lots of people, lots of different communities, like that's hard to see and hear and know about those reporting and things that are going on. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. So we have a grant-funded partnership through ODE that is helping us provide professional development opportunities to our leaders, and it's with West Ed is a group, and we've worked with them to really look at our school district data. They've looked at our academic data, our bias reporting data. We kind of packaged everything together and then spent about a month and a half together working to create what would be the most beneficial type of professional learning for our staff to receive from them. And so we have come up with a plan, and we have a 4-part series that we've been delivering to our leaders this year. And so we have the principals from every school, along with the members of their equity team, joining in on our sessions with a model of learning and together, and then like a take and make type of a model. So teams come together, learn on a certain topic, and then learn how to deliver that same content and facilitate that same type of learning to their entire staff. And so we've had the expectation this year that every school each month comes with their team, learn through the topic, and then make a plan to deliver that same professional learning to their staff. Our first session was November 4th, and what we started to look at was disproportionality, equity, and cultural responsive and sustaining education. And the big piece from there is really looking at school systems and developing some common terminology and definitions and language. I think that's CHS's poster. And this is to look on like what's working, where are there gaps, and where do we need to focus. And from this meeting, the thing that happened is that every team was given and trained on how to do a culturally responsive sustaining education self-assessment. That's developed by the New York University research on equity and transformation of schools. And it's a comprehensive like self-assessment for a school system. And so every team was talked through and trained kind of how to do that. And so every school team will be doing that, has been working on that comprehensive self-assessment for their school to bring that data back to work on with our facilitators. We're also doing that same self-assessment for our entire district at large through the Student Growth and Experience Department. And then we've been working on that. In that assessment, there are several areas that we look at through a rubric and score and set goals on. And so we're looking at things like student-centered, welcoming and affirming environments, high expectations and rigorous instruction, inclusive curriculum and assessment, ongoing learning and support to build staff capacity, family and community ties, and district and school leadership. And so those are the types of things that we're looking at, we're assessing right now to develop our future plans and pieces that way. Okay. So our next 3 sessions are focused on these topics. So the foundations of culturally responsive data literacy. That's a gap that we've noticed in our scorecard work, is looking at disproportionality and disaggregated data. And so we're learning tools as leaders and school teams to better look at that data. Culturally responsive action planning. So that's using the data from the self-assessments to start to do root cause analysis and develop areas of focus through our equity teams at every school. And then looking at our culturally responsive action planning and developing just action steps to implement next year into our school communities.
Can I add one thing before you take questions? The support from West Ed came through a grant from the Department of Education. So we made an application to the department, who then supported this work through West Ed. And so it was something that we were fortunate to be able to receive. And that I think is important context.
Questions? Sammy?
So thank you. Appreciate the work. I have 2. First one, we may have discussed it before, any collaboration beyond Corvallis School District within the community, county, city. Shall I pause and then ask the second one after answer?
What kind of collaboration? I mean, the West Ed collaboration it's a national, it's regional and national, so that's a good collaboration for us. I think that we always take away really good information from our district equity team meetings. So that's another collaboration that's just within our community, within our school communities, within our community of Corvallis, and regionally.
Wonderful.
And then also Marcian leads the Regional Racial Equity Group, which is Regional Racial Equity Group, which is multiple districts from around in our area who come together every quarter or so to have conversations and do some work around this. They're also working with West Ed, from what I understand too.
Okay. Thank you. Then a second one is, we need to address bias for the sake of addressing bias itself. And we have our own goals that will help us we will progress when we address bias. So I don't want to get my question misconstrued that we need to be focused for its own sake, making sure our students live in environments free of bias. And is there any connection that we could see or track longitudinally or every year to what the state is going to hold us accountable to? And they have their own metrics for accountability that they're going to mandate on us and give us a menu of options locally to choose from. And I can cite them quickly if you would like me to.
Are you talking about the new accountability factors? Okay,
Yes.
and so are you talking about like local measures or? Okay,
Yeah, well,
you
either-
might want to list them out. I don't think everybody knows.
Yeah, so the measures that they're considering third grade reading proficiency, eighth grade mathematics proficiency, ninth grade on track status, fourth grade 4-year graduation rates, 5-year completion rates, regular attendance rates, early grade K-12 attendance. So those are considered from mandatory, and then they're going to give us a menu of local options to choose from, and they're not available to me at this moment. Yes.
So the local options are going to be identified, and there's going to be a menu for us to choose from. And I've seen sort of a proposal, and there are many of the measures that we have spent time talking about in the past, like participants and completers and CTE programming and some of those pieces. But that's not, but then there will be a formative assessment piece, or 3 times a year, and that we don't have yet that list from the department. It was supposed to go to the state board this week, but they've postponed it till January for us to then make decisions on what those local performance indicators are going to be by the menu, and then also what assessments we're using 3 times a year that I'm preparing and presenting to the board.
Great, thank you. So maybe where we are right now, and with this topic, at least for the ones that they're going to be statewide, do you see connection in terms of students being able to academically do better, continue to show up, not being absent, and finish school on time?
Yeah, I think the self-assessment and the rubrics, when you get through when you look through the rubrics on setting goals of focus areas to improve, help improve all of those areas in a school system, because it looks for areas of inequities to shift and change and set goals around.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Chris?
Thank you for that report. I was really impressed when CHS administrators just shared with us at our at the SIPS presentation last 2 weeks ago about how the I guess it was the administration team shared with all the athletes and did I don't know if they used a specific curriculum or a presentation, what they did. Can you talk about that? And then will this add to that, or is it part of this work that's being?
That is an ad that they did on their own that I think is really good, and it's just that idea of they know that there's bias with between students that happens within sports. Did either of you go to that presentation? No? Okay. And so they know that happens, and their intentional conversation was that that's not how we do business as CHS and as athletes. That's not how you do business on a team as well. So the question is about, will that add to?
Well, I just wondered if there was a connection with what's.
I think they saw a connection and they wanted to do something about it. So that was action on their part. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Any other questions? Judah and then Shauna? Or Shauna, then Judah? You all pick.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the update and just the thoughtfulness around process and continually improving process based on feedback. I know a couple of years ago, as the system was launching, one of the things we heard from high schoolers really openly was that there was no ability to report anonymously, and now there is. And ongoing feedback with just seeing low percentages, which you hope would relate to really low incidents happening, and at the same time knowing that that's not always the reality. I'm curious about one of the things I know we've heard from high schoolers is it's hard to file a report, whether it's anonymous or not, and then feel like you don't know what happened afterward.
Right.
And a lot of that has to be held confidential in terms of what was the follow-up with other students. And so then that distrust in the system, or just not knowing what's working and what's not if they're not seeing it. I'm curious if you've had any conversations, connections with high schoolers or other interviews just to continue to get feedback on that process, how that's going, how that's feeling, continual ways to improve that they're noting.
Last year was our first year doing the 30-day check-in with the student who was harmed, and that was our way of being able to speak to that student who was harmed and let them know, ask the questions of how are you doing now? Is it continuing? Is there anything that we should have done differently? Is there anything that we can do to help, continue to help? And typically those check-ins are pretty, yeah, it's fine, we're good. There have been a couple of students who have said, no, it still happens, when I'm here or when I'm over there, and I would need help with that. And our teachers or our principals are also trying to find better adults to do those check-ins. They could check in, but if they weren't the one that worked with the student, or if they're not that close with the student and aren't that trusted adult, then using a trusted adult in the building to ask those questions usually gets a more honest answer. So we're tracking that data too. That data is a lot of hand entered. So we're doing a lot of work with Kristen in my office, making sure that information is getting tallied and taken care of. Thanks.
Ask one more. Should we wait for Judah?
Do you all mind
Thank you.
extending our time for 5 more minutes? Can you put 5 more minutes on, Kim? Go ahead, Shauna, for your other question.
Thank you. So I know that the numbers are different year after year, so we can't exactly compare the percentages from one year to the next because it may be a percentage off a different number. But I noted that the percentages of racial bias, LGBTQ plus bias, religious bias, those percentages have dropped, whereas disability has increased. And again, that's not necessarily a decrease in the incidences, but just a decrease in the percentages across the total. Right. You mentioned culturally responsive and responsive approaches in seeing the data and really looking at how to respond as the data are coming in. Are there ways that you're addressing ableism in terms of seeing those percentages rise?
Yeah, so some of that has been happening through some of our special ed department trainings and pieces that we've been working on. One of the things that we just started to work on, starting from a kindergarten level, is actually an inclusive model around training that helps to address ableism, and what does an inclusive kindergarten setting look like, and we're partnering with LBL on that. And so that's a small way that we're looking to build up and scale those pieces up that way.
Judah?
That's really good too.
Yes. So, nerd data question. When I was interested, so when we're seeing the reports of swastikas, I'm assuming that's being categorized as anti-Semitism. When we're talking about things that could have multiple implications, like anti-LGBTQ bias and discrimination towards the Romani people who are also is there a way to categorize a single incident across multiple areas?
So when Kristen does do the data, she's had to figure out how to take the data from the system we're using and do some deeper dives into it. And she has been taking a look at when multiple things are occurring in one incident. So she does track that, but that's something that she'll do by hand, but she will do that. And you see that. You see that a lot in the types of bias reported. A lot of times you'll see some that are higher, but it could have been across multiple. There could have been an incident that crosses multiple areas of bias.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And second question, we had done some changes to our bullying definitions earlier this year, last year, time is fake, that we really specifically included seeking into preventing and intervening in bullying based on body shape and size. Mm-hmm. Is there any way to collect that data? Are we only collecting state protected?
No, we can collect that data, and that's something that is something that we can pull. It's just not part of I was trying to be consistent as a data person, trying to be consistent with the categories and the numbers. If you notice in the locations of incidents, we've changed one of the categories to online, and we don't have data for that in the past 2 years, but we have data for last year. So that is one that we can take a look at when it comes to. A lot of times that will fall into multiple categories like like being sexist in a way, but also with body shaming. So there's two that will come together. So we'll take a look at that, and I'll have Kristen pull some of that.
I would appreciate seeing that data.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks. So many possible questions, but here's one that I don't think we've touched on that I'm curious about. In the investigations and consequences section of the summary here, you've broken down the actions that were taken, and I'm curious if you are tracking the response or the action taken to resolve as it relates to the category or type of incident, bias incident. So is there a pattern of, like, you know, is that, as an example for folks who can't see this in front of me, reteaching or lessons is one of the actions, right?
Right.
And you used that 185 times out of 293, was it, founded?
Right.
Yeah. So that's obviously the largest category. Are there specific types of bias incidents that tended to get resolved by a particular action? And are you tracking that for?
Yeah, that one, that's a hard, I don't know if we can pull that. That's an interesting one to take a look at. Tracking this was also done by hand, as Kristen wanted to see what it is that they bring to our bias incident response team. Sorry, I've been out for 4 weeks. I'm barely walking around. But she pulls that data, and these are asks. We're writing them down because it would be interesting to see that. She pulled this data on investigation and consequences. And just to be clear, again, with the data overlap, it says 185 reteaching lessons, but that reteaching lesson could have also included a parent meeting and a repair with a person harmed. So those numbers aren't going to add up to 293. They're just going to be overall. But that's a question that we're going to take back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then kind of along similar lines to what you're, the potential of a single event being tracked in multiple categories is you have 293 founded incidents of bias. Do you have 293 individuals who caused harm?
No.
Do you have 293 individuals who were harmed?
Yes, probably.
Like
I mean, I think when we look at the reason I said no at first is because I was thinking about students who are involved in multiple incidents, which we can track and we can see and we can search for, so we can see the person causing harm if they've been involved in multiple incidents through our system. So we can also see, if we needed to, we could also add as a party involved the person who was harmed, so we can see if there's someone who is also being harmed in multiple different ways. Yeah.
Okay. I know I would be curious to see if we're talking about a situation of, say, a context or a setting that's become, a little bit more incendiary and it's causing more, if that can sometimes help clarify why the numbers move the way that they do. And then my last question is just about, in terms of, I think that this is a really helpful summary. I'm curious about cross grades incidents.
Okay.
If there's some incidents related to, and then I'm also curious about when it is identified or when it is known, are we seeing patterns of in terms of who is behaving in a biased way towards, so the person doing the harm and the person who's being harmed, are there patterns, or are you tracking around gender? I also apparently have been, I think you understand my question, so I'm just going to stop because I can't find the words to get it more clear.
But that's what we did with the N-word, is we were looking at the incident itself, who, what was the racial makeup of the person causing harmed.
Okay.
So that's something,
okay. And then my last thing that I'm curious about, for if we can track it or if we can know it, is, do we have situations where, and if you do you track this, where one individual is causing harm and multiple people are harmed in the same incident? So, or where one individual is, can you do that way? Where one individual is being harmed and multiple people are participating. Would you track that as individual incidents of bias? So I'm talking about group interaction.
So that's a good nuance. We would track that as one incident, but when it comes to our student information system and synergy and behavior reporting, if there were a group of students who were harming one student, every one of those students would have a behavior incident recorded in their student information system.
And likewise, if multiple students were harmed, you would have, all right, thank you.
Are you okay if that we're going over on this topic? Okay. Go.
Yeah, just one quick question. Are the outcomes documented in the system? Like, do we have data on, like, whether an incident resolved, people apologized and so on? I would be interested in seeing that data as well, the outcomes.
So what happens in the outcomes is in our system, our principals are, they get the behavior incident report, they do the investigation, and then they have note sections. And typically in that note sections, we're asking them for a framework of, is this founded? Did this happen? And then, what did you do with the person who was harmed? How did you take care of them? What happened with, and it's mostly a narrative. So it's not something where we can go into a system and like click boxes of what we want to see. So if that's a piece of data you'd like to look at, that would be something that we'd have to pull, just like we were talking about with Therese. Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So on the bias incident file on the public meeting agenda, it shows that CSD students have had decreasing amount of reports. And I was curious if there was a reason for why there's been less district students reporting.
Do you mean on this one here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that number is just a straight number of if they are the reporter. And if remember from the presentation, the staff number went up, and what we saw was with that increase of staff reporting, that half of that number are reporting for students. So if a student a student can report for themselves, for a friend, they saw a thing. So it's that part kind of gets all mixed into the data. But in multiple incidents, an adult is reporting for a student instead of a student reporting for themselves. So that might be where you see that data kind of dropping in a funny way.
I had a question too, but I also had I just wanted to say that you must have read my mind about asking about trainings about anti-Black racism, because that's great to see that it's in there for professional learning.
Thank you.
So I'm glad I didn't have to ask about it this year. The question I had was, what kind of changes have you all seen since we're a few years into this yet, or have you seen any changes in district experiences or behavior with students and or staff?
I think the thing that I've seen, and maybe it's just, I think that our administrators, I'm not getting a phone call for every single incident to say, I don't know what to do about this incident. Instead, I think administrators are feeling more and more confident in the tools that they have in front of them, remembering that we have a district behavior guidelines document that lists racial harassment and has, I had it written down somewhere, but I can take it from memory, that it gives out consequences based on severity levels. We have a racial language scale that they can open up and take a look at, comparing what they are investigating with what our racial language scale says, so they know kind of what direction to go. And then within that, they have lots of tools. Marcianne isn't here because she does a lot of other things, but one of the great things that she did for our team was she made sure that our administrators have access to a huge file of reteaching lessons on topics like ableism and anti-Semitism and racism, and how can they work with students to do that reteaching so they're feeling more confident in that. I used to get tons of questions on, is this the direction I should be going, and what do I do with this kid now? And I'm not experiencing that as much, and I feel like it's because they're becoming more confident in the work that they're doing with their students on campus.
The thing I would just add that is important, I think, in this is the work that Melissa has done around this over the years is it's systemized. And so it actually doesn't matter if you're a new administrator in our district. Like we have like first year principals right now. It's like a system in place. And so it doesn't rely on if you're really good at communication or following up on certain things. There's actually a system to do that anytime someone is harmed in this process. Parents are called, there's a conversation that happens. The system of Guardian dings you and reminds you of the things you need to be doing. It reminds you to do your 30-day check-in, to go back and check in on the student who was harmed. And so because of that, as we have change and our system's always changing with our staff, the system's built where this will continue to happen. And I think that's really important to note that it's systemized now, and I see that as a difference.
Cool, thank you. I know that this model is based loosely on the model at OSU, and being on that team we've seen the numbers of reports go down quite a bit over the last couple of years, and so I wasn't surprised to see report numbers go down here as well. But I'm glad they haven't gone down as much there, because just because stuff isn't getting reported does not mean bias is gone.
Exactly.
And so I hope that we continue to document it really well as a district to see where we need to work on things. That was the whole point of it, right? So knowing like the anti-Black racism was an area that really needed to be addressed, and there's a training that is coming out of it. So I think that it's doing what was envisioned when the students asked for it a few years ago. So thankful to see some steps being taken. And I know that change is slow too. Within systems, and some students may never see the students who were here that called for this change or have already graduated. And so I just wanted to name that too, that happens sometimes too. And it's like, but I'm thankful for their advocacy for sure. Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask you all, we have quite a few more items on the agenda. Do you all want to take a break now or after the next agenda item? Break. We're going to take a break right now, and then we'll go on to the, okay. If we can put the break thing up on the, thanks. I don't know if Okay, we're back, you all. The next item on the agenda is the student investment account, and we have Lauren for this one.
There's nothing much to say about it other than it's a logistical requirement from in ORS that we present the grant agreement. We don't always get them in the right time of when we actually do the presentation, which was done last month. And so we didn't have the grant agreement from the state yet, so that's why you have it now, but I don't really have anything additional to share about it. Sammy has a question.
Go ahead, Sammy.
How do you know? How many reports we have to submit for the several different grants that we receive?
Like a little less than 200, I think.
So approximately how many hours a year we might save if we get an integrated one?
That's sort of a loaded question. Hours, yes, but when it also takes the collaboration of many different people on different teams. So, and we also have to use like specific software platforms that are not super user friendly as well. So, I mean, many.
Yeah.
It would be great if we could just submit that information once.
Yeah. So modernizing the way we submit our application and integrating the application might help. So thank you, and just want to highlight a comment to highlight my gratitude for our business community because the funds that we get through the corporate excise tax comes into the Student Success Act, and it's been helpful for us to do the work. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Does anyone wish to make a motion? Chris, go ahead, Chris.
I move to approve the district's 2025-27 student investment account grant agreement. This motion, nope, never mind, I know.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Chris and seconded by Shauna. Is there any further discussion? Okay, it has been moved by Chris and seconded by Shauna to approve the district's 2025-27 student investment account SIA grant agreement. Judah?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shauna?
Aye.
Therese?
Aye.
Bernie?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is the budget parameters. Back to you, Lauren.
I'm bringing these back to you just as we do every year as we head into the budget season. This is first read. We typically do a first read and a second read, just like we do with other policies, although this isn't a policy. And what I have included in the first read is where we left off last year. So if you remember, we made several revisions to the budget parameters last year. And so that's your first read for this year. And we hope to make whatever changes that you might see fit and have that ready for the second read next month.
What Lauren is mentioning is that we brought it back twice last time.
We did 2 second reads last time.
I remember.
Okay.
You're looking at me too.
Well, I
was like, I know.
I'm just saying, if you would like to make revisions, I would love for you to tell me today.
I have a comment, but I usually go last, so I was seeing if other
Okay.
folk had any comments, questions. Go ahead, Sammy.
So, Lauren, thank you. In light of the shift in the decision makings we're making that will make a huge shift in how we're going to budget this year, could you speak a little bit about how the budget parameters are going to inform our decisions and in budgeting, and how is it going to support this process, especially in a unique year where there is school consolidation and closure of buildings?
So, as I mentioned, we do like the 2 reads on it, but it isn't a policy. These are just generally accepted guidelines that we are committing to honor throughout the budget process. I think this also helps a little bit as the board sets the budget parameters, and then as we join that larger group of the budget committee, which then includes 7 other community members, it just sort of, I think, helps with that through line a little bit. These budget parameters, as we revised them last year, we tried to really tie them to the board goals because that's what should be leading our spending. The goals without aligned spending is not going to help us reach those goals, right? And so we've tried to include that in each one of these different categories here. This is originally something that was put in place as part of our budget process. It's not required prior to me being in this role, but it's based off of best practices, and I think I put a little more of that information in the cover. So does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I think it's sort of like when we use our different evaluative tools like the equity lens questions, or when we're going through different processes to help us, like when we make a decision, we go through these kind of categories and then talk through each one.
Thanks.
I had a suggestion for something to potentially add in, probably under the long-term perspective section, because of the really unstable financial situation that public education actually still is in. I was wondering if we should put something in there about keeping those things in mind. I know that the information that went out, that at least that the OSBA board folk and LPC people said that the revenue may have not been looked as bad, but there's still a big hole from other areas that are impacting public education. So I don't know if we wanted to put something in there that gives, I don't think the funding area has been like this for a long time, and it just seems like it might be somewhere in there, possibly there, to put around funding instability with the state and federal funds. I don't know how to word it though. That's why I was looking to you for help with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I also think that's tricky because that's not something we can control. And so I guess my question to you would be, how would we actually implement any change related to that? Because the thing that comes up to me would be increasing the reserve policy to account for that. And so if that's something you're saying, that wouldn't necessarily be a budget parameter. That would be more like we need to look at that policy. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. Like, that's a real impact, and how we recognize that impact through the budget parameters, I'm not really sure.
I'm thinking about like how in the past we've had to make tough decisions on programs, which theoretically we are not doing that this year. But things like that where there's priorities of community and of the district and prioritizing, I think that's more where I was coming from, with keeping those in mind.
Yeah.
If there are unexpected impacts that continue to happen, that's kind of what I was thinking of. But if it doesn't fit in the parameters, that's okay too. I just wanted to ask about it, if that was somewhere that it should go, or if that should go somewhere else.
I don't, and this is just my one feeling, I'm not sure that it fits necessarily in the budget parameters, but I'm not opposed to it either. I think so I'm just trying to think of like, what would that example be? So if we lost funding, like for the 21st Century program, for example, that's federal funding that we receive to run that after school program that supports many of our students that need the academic support. So in that scenario, if we choose to do that still, that would then bump something in general fund, and we would have to shift priorities. And I do feel like our board goals and that the rest of the parameters are written around already give us the tools to evaluate like which things would stay and which things would go. But maybe if we explicitly say that we will use those as an evaluation tool when we have to assess what programs to continue or discontinue due to changes in state or federal funding. Does that feel like it's like is my example of what I'm thinking what you're thinking about, like those programs, and if we decide how we would continue or not?
Yeah, or even like stuff with the lunch programs,
Sure.
things like that. Support for students with disabilities, which were required by law anyways to
Yes.
do. And those are the kind of things that I was thinking. And I don't know if other board members have thoughts on that, or if it's just me thinking about that. Go ahead, Sammy.
Help me out if I'm not hearing what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is the word adaptability, maybe not resilience, adaptability, which is given the instability of funding streams, and some funding streams are, whether stable or not as stable, fund our programs at different levels of priorities. What I'm hearing is this adaptability, that we may need to make decisions in an adaptable way to continue prioritizing what we care most about, with minimal influence of which funding streams are gone and which funding streams are here, and not only through the budget parameters informing our budget cycle, but also within the same budget year as well. Am I hearing that? Or is that totally different?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
If it's the same, maybe. I think adaptability is a little bit different than prioritizing. And so that's kind of where I was getting at, because there's, over the last few years, it felt like the budget committee was kind of just stuck on things because there was no, like, how do we prioritize? And you're prioritizing and giving us based on all the things, and having those guidelines for the budget committee to understand what's happening, I think is really important. But if it doesn't, if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't and it needs to go somewhere else, that's fine too. I think we just need to have that conversation as a budget committee when we have that meeting. That training would be good to even talk about how that works. Go ahead, Bernie.
Yeah, I think what would be helpful, and I think maybe this is what you're talking about too, is that we have a list of assumptions that we would give to the budget committee about the economic situation, what programs are likely to be funded, what programs we assume would continue funding, and then basically I think that could help guide some of the decisions if we're looking at the assumptions behind it too.
Yeah, I think in general, I do provide assumptions, but I think they're probably more rolled up. And I know that that's just something that is interest to you too. And so I think that we can expand upon that and go into further detail when I look at what the composition of our budget committee will be for this year. I think there's a bit more capacity to dig in a little deeper into things based on the, everybody on the board has been through that process at least once, and having at least a group of the members from the community side still participating. And so there's opportunity for that. I'm happy to provide anything specific to the committee, and if that would be helpful, that's...
Yeah, and some of that data may also be existing out there already. I'm pretty sure
it
the
is.
state
It's just I can
has
bring it to the
Correct.
top and present that.
Yep.
I just want to be in favor when you said unrolling the assumptions, just to be a little bit more explicit, like here's the assumptions that we're operating under, because just last month we were being told you can expect an additional 5 to 10% cut, and now it's not. So it's like it does feel a lot like being yo-yoed. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Mm-hmm. So just to say, this is the assumptions that we're operating under, like explicitly where this money is coming from for this budget cycle. Just to say, like, here's the basis for which we're making the decisions, because right now we're getting thrown all over the place with different types of funding.
Yep. Most of that is in the document already as it stands, but I'm happy to highlight that more, as I know that people aren't going to read every 200 pages of the document. So if those are things that you're interested in, I'm happy to bring that forward.
Thanks, Lauren. And it doesn't have to go in the budget parameters. I just seen if it needed to go in there at all. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, and we can have that conversation later. Again, it was more thinking about the whole budget committee. The community members don't have as many conversations about the budget as the board, and then we have access to things like the state guidance and things like that are coming down. So I think it would be just helpful. And by the time we have the budget committee meeting, it'll be after this short session too, so we'll have a more clear on that theoretically. All right, go ahead, Ryan.
It makes me wonder if we should at some point bring back policy DA for the conversation around reserves. Again, thinking mostly about the federal situation. Last year, Congress appropriated dollars and then they were put on hold. And we had concerns whether or not they were coming through. So I just wonder if it wouldn't be healthy for us to have that conversation at some point before we reach the fall when those concerns may arise again.
Sounds good. I think I had that in my brain and didn't say it at some point about bringing that policy up. So, yeah.
There's also another one specific to budget committee that is, I mean, I can see it on the list. It's under DA, but it's in there that maybe that one would be relevant as well. I don't believe that we have reviewed those, at least since I've been in this role.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Other than DA, which we review
correct, but
annually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other last minute questions? We have like a minute left. Yeah. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Okay, thanks, Lauren, for your work. And next we have review of resolution 161201, rights of undocumented students. And I guess there it is. I actually asked for this one to get pulled up at one of our past meetings, and do y'all mind if I just share some thoughts since I asked about it? I don't think that I think this is a great resolution, and I think we need to update it. I'll just say it flat out like that, because it was written for what's going to be 10 years ago, and things have changed with things around immigration enforcement, and this one is very specific to one single branch of immigration enforcement. And I feel like in thinking about where we lie on the coastline and think about where we're at nationally with things and as a state, I think it's a good time to perhaps do an updated version. So does that sound okay with you all? I would like to work on that. Judah, you're raising your hand.
Chair, I have a similar thought, and in reviewing that, wondering if, in addition to updating to make sure that the protections provided are the most current, if it's possible to be looking at expanding that to the children of undocumented immigrants as well, like have a section.
I think that I don't remember if that was not in here specifically, but I mean, yes, that would be good. I think we need to talk about many things, including not just ICE, but like Border Patrol,
federal agencies, private individuals hired on behalf of the federal government.
There's many reasons many ways it can be worded in here that can be a little more encompassing that could potentially.
Could I ask you to repeat yourself, Jude, on the first part? I was paying attention to the clock. I'm sorry.
To see about adding in a section for if we can, what if any protections we can provide for the children of undocumented immigrants who might themselves be U.S. citizens.
Did you have your
hand
up, Sammy?
So yeah, I agree. I support that, and just to make sure we're clear, in our intention is to really to strengthen, update, and broaden the scope to make sure our students feel safe and their families feel safe. And I've been thinking First of all, for context, this was voted on first time before I joined the board. They voted on it like just before, and they asked me, "Would you have voted for it?" During the interview process. Maybe we reaffirmed it once, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in 21, and I believe it's not only reviewing, it's revising it and strengthening it. I believe also I would like us to consider as long as we navigate some challenging times, continue to put it on the board as an informational reminder for all of us. And when anybody wants to say, when did the board consider it, it should be continuous informational commitments that we have made the decision. I just want to add that element, whether we enshrine that in the resolution itself, or we do the practice of the leadership putting it on the consent agenda or informational agenda, because I think there's two utilities of this, affirming to the community and to our children, and also operationalizing the work that we do.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts about this? Shauna? And then you, Ryan.
I'm in support as well. And just my question back to you is, what would be next steps in terms of process?
We need to basically just look at this one and what it says and the framework it offers, and draft a new one for like we do with any other resolution.
So just in clarifying, thinking about maybe a small group of board members doing
No
that
more than
outside and then coming back to bring it back to the board.
Just like
for
we do
review.
with other ones.
Okay.
I volunteer.
Okay, and Sam, okay. Did you have something?
I volunteer.
Okay.
I was in a conversation with a staff member recently, and a newer staff member to the district, and they had questions about the sort of the district stance with regards to this, and I let them know that this would be coming back to the board. So I think that while it is being modified, it's important that we maintain that that's the stance of the district in that interim period of time. And so I just think that that's an important statement as well.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not like it's not in place while we draft an updated one. I'm happy to reread it too if you want. My phone is little, but I can use your paper. I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay. Okay, so before I do, I just wanted to clarify. Me, Judah, Sammy, yes. Are you all okay with that? Yes. Okay, and then we'll...
Sorry, I'm just getting this reminder. We're not staffing this. This is within the prerogative of the board, but maybe a reminder, Chair, that in the newsletter, we provide a channel for the community to reach out to you or the group, so we can incorporate any feedback from staff or community as well.
Yeah, they can just email us. The board members that are working on it, feel free to email us if you have thoughts on it. Okay, I will go ahead and read Resolution 16-1201, Rights of Undocumented Students and Protocols for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, Access to Schools. And it says recitals A, since 1982, Supreme Court precedents, Plyer versus Doe 457 U.S. 202, has required equal access to public education for all children, including those who are undocumented or come from families with members who are undocumented. B, the Board of Directors of the Corvallis 509J School District is committed to the success and safety of every student who attends our district schools. Our goal is for every student to grow and ultimately to graduate, and it is the responsibility of our school district to give each student the opportunity and support to meet this goal. C, the board believes that physical safety and emotional well-being are paramount to foster student success. Therefore, our schools must be safe and inviting places for all students and their families. Policies already in place prohibit any form of discrimination, harassment, or bullying. The district's anti-discrimination policies have both federal civil rights law and Oregon law at their foundation. D, the board knows that our children's safe and inviting educational environment would be disrupted by the presence of ICE officials who might come into district schools for the purposes of removing students or their family members or obtaining information about students or their families. E, the board further believes that our students' ability to succeed will be negatively impacted by the removal of their family members by ICE, which could leave students without supervising adults to care for them. Therefore, the district will develop policies and procedures to protect and care for such students until a guardian or other designated adult is contacted, and that all teachers, administrators, and staff should be trained on such procedures. Resolution 1. Any ICE official intending to enter any Corvallis 509J school must first notify the superintendent or designee in person of this intention with adequate notice for the superintendent to consult with legal counsel and take steps to provide for the emotional and physical safety of staff or students and staff. 2. The superintendent is authorized to ask for any ICE official's credentials, ask why he or she is requesting access to a school, and review the legal authority for the request. 3. Any ICE official must provide written legal authority for entry into a 509J school. Such authority must document the purpose for such entry. 4. Corvallis 509J staff shall not ask about or document any student's immigration status or that of the student's family members, and pursuant to the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, and relevant law shall not disclose without parental consent the immigration status or other personal information about any student or his or her family. 5. Within the next 90 days, the superintendent shall develop a plan for training teachers, administrators, and other staff on how to respond to ICE personnel who may attempt to enter 509J property and or request information about 509J students and families. Subject to applicable laws, the plan shall include procedures for notifying families about generalized ICE efforts to gain information about students and families, and how to protect and support students whose family members have been displaced because of ICE. This plan shall be communicated to all 509J families in all supported languages. Adopted by the Board of Directors of School District Number 509J, Corvallis of Benton and Lynn Counties, Oregon, at its meeting this 5th day of December 2016. Signed by former board chair Alexis McQuinlan. Thank you for letting me borrow that. That was much easier to read than on my phone.
Thank you for reading it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important that we do reaffirm that. In the context of this time, there's students in the state who have been had family members taken right outside of their schools, including in Albany, which was right across the river. And that is very traumatizing for kids and families and everybody involved, and creates a level of fear that should not be around public education at all. So I appreciate the district's commitments to that, and also know the reality is that this issue has impacted families very directly in our school district and in the state. Okay, so we will come up with a plan to bring something to the board. Do we have a deadline?
Let's do it soon. Let's give ourselves no more than a month.
That sounds great. Okay, next month we shall have something to you all. Does that sound good? Okay, great. Okay, it's hard to move, just moving right along, but I was like, now I need a break. Yeah, so the next item on the agenda is OSB conference takeaways. Anybody want to go? Judah?
So there were 4 of us at the conference. Yes, I'm looking at you. I always appreciate the opportunity to receive ongoing education to better my work on the board. My favorite presentation was the Wilsonville mariachi and dance.
Woodburn.
Woodburn. that wasn't really educational. It was just an absolute delight. And I myself attended a presentation from the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, and I had mentioned last meeting and then forgot to follow up that we need to draft a policy around reimbursement, because right now we have almost nothing that we're eligible to be reimbursed for, but the very limited things under the current law, you should not be using a credit card or debit card for which you get any kind of points or rewards to be paying for things to be reimbursed for. And to go around that, we need a specific policy. And so it's not going to be one of our more exciting policies, but I do think that we need it. That was my one takeaway when I checked up on our other policies mentioned to look at in that presentation. They looked great.
Who wants to go next? Any other OSBA takeaways from the conference? I do want to go back to, go ahead, Sammy, you're unmuted, sorry.
Yes, I attended the presentation on consolidation that the chair and staff have shared, and we were in the midst of the decision making. I just want to say thank you for staff who came all the way to Portland to not only share about the experience, but also listen for feedback from other colleagues, board members, and see what experiences that they go through. I know, like, we kept them awake until after midnight and that following week, and they're still invested their weekend to come and share with other districts. And it's not unknown that other boards are navigating similar situations. So the professional development that we have gone through is helping us understand and learn, and also share our lessons learned with others. And I'm just very grateful for this commitment that we have with each other. One thing I'm going to share, and I'm going to share it courageously, knowing it's the optics of it are not good, but I have to share it, which is the legislature said it's not fair for school board members to serve without getting a stipend that helps them really fulfill some basic needs while they're volunteering their time. I think it's very beneficial for board members to say, I volunteer my time, I'm not getting paid, labor of love. And at the same time, I know for future generations, future board members, there will be a barrier of someone who say, I can't take time off, or I can't afford serving without really fulfilling some basic needs, including child care, for example, or security cameras for the household. And these are real examples that board members across Oregon have invested from their private funds to do. So the question is, of course, the Ethics Commission made it very clear how you do go about it. We can't pay ourselves, but we can make a resolution where other board members may benefit from a stipend, or future board members after an election will benefit from a stipend. And I think it is worthy of a future discussion whether a stipend is warranted or not. I know we're going through a very difficult budgetary circumstances, so I want to be acknowledging that. And I'm sharing it in a public meeting where I want to hear from the community if they think, yeah, sure, go for it, or no, that's really not a good thing. I want to elevate that so we can hear from the community, because at the end of the day, I think a well-functioning board that takes care of the district is important, and that would be one element of it. So I just want to elevate that and entertain a conversation with community members who are interested in it before we consider whether that's an action we want to consider or not, in an ethical manner, because there's a means to do it ethically.
Okay, thanks, Sammy. Go ahead, Bernie.
Yeah, the conference was very enlightening to me. First, by talking with other board members and seeing our challenges are not unique, and this is a big thing for the whole state. But one of the sessions really struck a chord with me, and that was the session with all the legislators, the people in the education committee. I know we need to do more advocacy with them, but one thing I took away from that, there were Republicans and Democrats there. It's bipartisan, and they see the issues, they understand the issues, and I think they're relatively unified in their positions. And I think we really do need to spend more time reaching out to our legislators, and especially when it comes to resources and policies.
Thanks, Bernie. I should have mentioned that during the OSBA report. Hello, just a reminder that our regional legislative gathering is next week at the ESD building, and so that's is it next week? Yes, it is. The 17th, and so y'all should have got information about that and through email. And I wanted to go back to I'll come back to that one actually. I went to a lot of things too. I always get a lot out of OSBA. This conference this time I was extremely into many of the sessions, as in I was presiding one, presented twice, leading meetings. It was a lot, but I still got a lot out of it too. And I helped with the not the facilitation, the presider, like the person who starts it and ends it for the rural caucus session. I really appreciate going to the rural caucus, their informational stuff, especially at OSBA, because there's districts from all over. We're a barely urban school district, and we're in the middle of mostly rural. Albany's the other bareliest. Well, they're bigger than us, but so they're much bigger than us, but everybody else around us is pretty rural. And there's districts that have multiple schools within them making up their district to multiple cities. So I always get a lot out of that one. The Legislative Policy Committee meeting, again, just hearing what's going on, seeing the funding forecasts there, our regional roundtable, hearing from people around us, the Caucus of Color meeting, as president, putting that together. There was some huge bylaws changes on that, and that caucus work has remains committed to the same. However, the structure is very different now. If you're interested in hearing about it, let me know. There's a lot of great speakers, including that panel that Bernie was talking about. The thing that stood out the most to me out of everything they said, besides their commitment to education, is there's no more money coming from the state. So I was like, oh, it was Rep. McIntyre keeps it real. And so just that really stood out to me a lot, that she was just like, just so you all know. And the last thing I wanted to say is it relates back to our last topic on the agenda too. I agree with Judah, the mariachi, the performers, the student performers, just so folk who don't go to the conference know, they have schools put in to bring students, and they do a performance. There's two, so two schools get selected, and they're always super awesome and touching. And the mariachi one from Woodburn, their community was just impacted by ice heavily, and they still came, and those students still performed their hearts out. And it was like the kids that were all around the side of the whole room, it was like they were just hugging everybody in the whole room, like holding that space. And then the older students were on top singing, and just knowing what had just happened in their school district was really moving to see that. So I really appreciated going to the conference and the professional development, the connections, and everything that comes with it. So yeah. Do you have something, Ryan?
Yeah, so just thinking again about advocacy work, hearing the legislators speaking about schools, but one of the four that was up there is Sue Ricky Smith, who just recently retired from being the superintendent in Tiger Tualatin.
Mm-hmm.
So we are fortunate to have Sue, having just spent time in a school district as a superintendent. Before that, she was in Salem Kaiser, and she's a good colleague. So thinking about how we also advocate more regionally, Sue would be a great person to reach out to. Locally, we know that both Sarahs have been on this board in the past. So in terms of folks thinking about the importance of public ed, I think we have some good allies, and I think we need to make sure that we're continuing to think about that in ways we can ask for their support.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, the next item. Wait, where are we? Is that right? Conference takeaways. Consolidated action. The next item on the agenda is consolidated action. Is there, we're on consolidated action. Is there an item anybody would like to pull from Sammy?
Budget appointments, the budget, a financial summary, and very quick notes about the minutes.
Okay, so A. That's a different one.
Oh, sorry, finance summary, I apologize, is the under consolidated information. So only the appointments and quick notes about the minutes.
Which minutes?
The November 13. Was it? Yes.
So item A and B2.
Yes.
Any other items? Okay, go ahead, Sammy. What do you want to? Which one do you want to start with?
The quick notes about the minutes. Just want to say it's 18 pages. Thank you, Kim Nelson, for taking very thorough notes, and I did review them. You captured really the essence of the discussion, and it really makes it helpful for community members, the board, future boards, and the public to really understand the discussion. And just want to recognize how thorough the documentation is and reflects how staff really are doing hard work for everything we do. So for the sake of brevity, not doing the same thing we've done last time, I just want to say really thank you for all staff and Kim especially for supporting this district and the board operations, including taking those minutes. No suggestions of any changes. And on the budget, on the budget committee appointments, I would like to offer an alternative motion, and happy for the sake of discussion to offer the motion and then discuss the merits of it, if the chair, if that would please the chair.
Hold on one second. I don't know what is going on with my agenda is being weird. Thank you. Yeah. I think this is why I was getting confused that it's in consolidated action, because there's motion language in the cover sheet. And so, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. 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 That's why I got confused for a second. Sorry. Yes, go ahead, Sammy.
Thank you. I move Cassandra Inman and Nancy J. Larson to be appointed to the Budget Committee for 3-year terms ending June 30th, 2028. In addition, I move to appoint Carla L. Wah to a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027.
Is there a second?
I second.
Then moved by Sammy and seconded by Chris. I'm going to need you to read it back because it's not prepared for me to read. So,
yes.
Is there any? Is there discussion?
Well, I wonder if Sammy could take a moment to offer his thoughts on offering an alternative motion.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I want to acknowledge the continued work of our finance to really go through the process of soliciting inputs. And usually some years we don't have enough applicants, and some other years we have a really great number of applicants. This year is the one where we have really great number of applicants. And the criteria I'm offering for the 3 names, I believe, they provide a diversity of thoughts, experience, engagement in different aspects, whether in education funding, really deep understanding in budgets, and the experience that requires the budget committee to have a diversity of voices. I did offer Nancy J. Larson as an alternative based on a former superintendent from Idaho who is in the community mentoring students here at OSU and have kids and grandkids in the system. I believe that's a really, and in addition to Cassandra Enman, she's a colleague on the budget committee currently, and Carlisle Hua is, I think, the CFO of OSU, so really great slate that I support. And just want to be very candid, appreciate everybody who applied to the budget committee and encourage them to continue to apply, and especially we have one more opportunity for a person who belongs to the committee, equity committee. So the rationale I provide is really people with track record engaging with the community and also making sure that the budget relies on people with a track record on experience that is consistent and understands budgets.
Tammy, what involvement does she have with the community, the alternative person you're putting in there, and with the board?
Yeah, Miss Nancy J. Larson have been involved in the community mentoring students, I believe teacher students. I moved in recently, I think, into the community about a couple of years, if not mistaken. And I really relied heavily on a really good reputation as a former superintendent, 30 years in education. And frankly, I'm not married to this motion. If my colleagues want to choose another alternative person, happy to support whatever the board sees fit.
Chris?
Thanks, Sammy. I also was going to recommend Nancy Larson as well. Nancy has been doing an incredible amount of volunteer work in the community, and as Sammy mentioned, has had a lot of experience in school budgets. I also was going to recommend her because thank you, Lauren, for putting out the parameters around best practices for school for budget committee members. And a couple of the things that were mentioned in there was fostering collaboration between academic and finance staff as well as school board members, and effectively communicate process and corresponding decisions to stakeholders. And I just think that Nancy has someone that I think would be very positive in those kind of best practices. I also have concerns, and this is going to be a tough conversation and courageous as well. But I had concerns about Chris being on our budget committee, just because I think that his conversations have been pretty negative towards board members and staff personally, and that I've noticed information. I mean, we've talked about it in meetings, him sharing in public meetings. Some of his facts don't really compare with what matches with Corvallis, our numbers and data, and that also I think that we're looking for people that are really concerned about, are really aimed at problem solving and not blaming. And so I think that Nancy would be a better fit for working on trying to help us, with difficult decisions and problem solving the situation that needs to be done.
Bernie?
Can I ask a question? This slate of names is recommended by Lauren,
Yeah.
or who came up with this original list?
Do you want to answer, Lauren?
So since I've been in this role, the process has been for district finance staff to solicit for applications and then review those internally on our team, and then make those recommendations to the board. But they are just that, they're recommendations. That's just how our policy reads.
Okay, so just follow up on that, then if you make a recommendation, then you assume you are certifying that they have at least the competency to serve in that capacity, correct?
Yeah, I think all the applicants that applied do.
Okay.
I mean, we received more applicants than what we have spots for. And based on, I don't have the specific legislation, it's in that, is that we are to include a member of the district equity team on the board, and we don't have any applicants yet. I'm still hopeful. So there's a position open for someone who also serves on that committee. But that's why we had 8 applicants and only are appointing 3, because we need someone that is also a participant on that committee.
Okay.
And that was a change to the law 2 years ago.
Thanks for clarifying that's part of state law. That's important for people to understand that. Shauna, and I have one too eventually.
Thank you, Lauren, for putting together this information, and thank you to the community for putting names forward to come and join in these conversations in really meaningful ways. Really appreciate everyone who has put their names forward to do this and to join us in these conversations. A question for you. I know you've put forward 3 names for recommendation after reviewing, and then there are some additional names on the spreadsheet below a line that you have there. Are those names in any order in terms of, or are they just kind of random order? They're not necessarily in an order of next recommendation?
No.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful to hear.
Anybody else before? Oh, go ahead, Therese.
Well, I would like to first really just extend appreciation to Chris for just bringing up what I think is an obvious point that there are probably a lot of feelings behind, and I appreciate that your approach is to say, well, let's talk about this because it's not going to do us any good to not talk about it. I don't necessarily haven't landed in the same place regarding what the best strategy for engaging the community and involving community members, but I can appreciate the comments. I also want to acknowledge that it's a privilege to live in a community where we have 8 people, all of whom would probably do a really fantastic job. And so this is not a situation of, are we going to get people on the committee that are going to do the hard work? We obviously are going to get that. We have a lot of folks on there. There are a lot of pieces and dynamics that we're talking about. With that in mind, I would struggle to support an alternative proposal if the primary driver behind that is this could be hard, because I think that the part of it that could be hard could also be the part that's really great. This is a person who's been very present, has been very involved, has very clearly demonstrated that they want to see a thriving, strong school district. And the one thing that continues to be, I get reminded of every year, is that the budget process is not even a tiny bit clear. Even as a board member, I have to remind myself year over year, how do we do this? Why are we talking about this now? Why can't we talk about it until then? Why are we passing a budget before we actually have money and then having to come back? It's very it's a confusing process. So I guess I want to extend the possibility that if you aren't doing the work of the budget committee, understanding the budget process might be an unreasonable lift. And so I would like to think, and I believe that when a person has participated in sharing information that is not accurate, the opportunity is to bring them closer to the data and have a conversation. And I think we have an opportunity to do that. So those are my thoughts. Also appreciate that in a community where at times people have said, well, you guys all just really seem to agree with each other. How we get to the place of agreeing with each other is not necessarily well understood. The amount of work that it takes to decide that we're going to work toward a unified support of our superintendent, unified support of our district. I feel like one of the ways that we make it very clear that we are not uncomfortable with viewpoints that differ from our own is to say, I'm pretty sure this person had different ideas about what to do about this particular budget situation. And I'm okay with engaging in conversation about that. I'm okay with doing that in a public meeting. And I trust myself, I trust my colleagues, and I trust this person that we're going to do that with the best interest of our district in mind until that's not what happens. So those are my thoughts. That said, I have tremendous trust in each of you. And if more people don't land where I have landed, I'm okay with that too. But I do want to share what my perspective is, knowing that whoever are the three, not right now, and eventually the fourth person that takes the seat, they'll sit here as my colleague. Whoever they are, they're going to be invited to that role, whether it's these three individuals or three other people, because that's the work that's before us. And I know this board can do that.
I still haven't got to talk yet. Have you talked yet? Okay, Judah, then I'm going to go.
I mean, I had a different analysis. First of all, thrilled that people were applying based on just kind of qualifications and like that were listed. I had some concerns with who was put forward, and I really like Heather Rankin, and I've seen a lot of advocacy and presence and activism, and I mean, we have unbelievable qualifications from people volunteering for our budget committee. So like when we're comparing, it's like people are great, but really she has a lot of great qualifications and has been extremely present and helped and informative. So I don't know any of these individuals personally. I just looking at the qualifications and comparing them, what was presented, really appreciate where Heather was coming from or is coming from.
I was just going to say that I appreciate the process that we've been using, and it feels uncomfortable to say, like, I don't agree with it because of dynamics, perhaps. And I have no idea who Nancy Larson is. Like, I don't know if I've met her, maybe. But that's why I asked how she's been involved with the board, because I think that's one of the things or with the district. And I don't see in here that there's anything that says that. And to me, to pull somebody from the list that isn't involved with things seemed a little bit problematic, in my opinion. And I don't mind saying that because we don't always agree. But in having had my own experiences as board chair, with Chris, I still felt comfortable with supporting the process that we have had in place, and know that he's been very involved with our schools, not just with coming to board meetings when things are tough. And so I thought that was worth thinking about too. And so that's kind of where that's at. And quite honestly, I did encourage him to apply as well, just so other board members know. Because he seems quite passionate about the budget. And so I thought that seemed like a good place to put that energy, is towards looking for a solution with us. And so when I seen that how big the list was, I was like, oh, he's made it on there. Cool. And I also wanted to point out too that I think Carla's an incredible person. So I'm glad that that wasn't somebody that got requested to get not on there, because she has the view of public education from the higher ed side, which is in the same bucket with us. And I think that would be an incredible addition to it. So I just want to say that too on the list of folk, and that Cassandra's already been involved. So I just wanted to share my thoughts. I don't personally, as a individual board member, feel comfortable replacing somebody on the list with somebody that has not been involved. And so that's just where I'm coming from with it, even if they have past experience in another state, not our state. Bernie?
Yeah, just since I only asked a question and didn't give my thoughts on this, I also want to speak on behalf of Chris, just because from what I have known of him and from engaging with him, he brings different perspectives, and I think it's important for us to take in all points of views, especially when we're looking at a budget, because a budget is it's a document that basically will guide how we do things. And I think Chris has also a lot of community engagement, and he talks to a lot of the families around here. And so I think it's important to not exclude those views. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. So I'm also in agreement that I would be comfortable with the 3 recommendations that you've made here moving forward, Lauren. And I think that having folks who are really thoughtful, critical thinkers who want to engage in respectful dialogue around this together is where some of the question comes up. And so I think a question I have is around board norms that we hold as a board, and how do those apply to the budget committee as well? So if the board in majority were comfortable moving forward and ultimately did move forward, I would support that. If we were looking at folks or replacing one or more folks on the list, I'd also just like to name that Stephanie Haynes is someone who brings a really thoughtful view to these conversations. Stephanie started asking questions about the budget probably 2 years ago, and then started coming to board meetings and has come to almost every single board meeting in the last 18 months, as well as each of the budget committee meetings, the community forum for budget, when we had various board member meet and greets at different times, was showing up in every one of those spaces over the last probably year to 18 months at least. So somebody that I've seen as a community member who is on this list, who has really actively shown up in those spaces. And I know that this is a time, and we can say the same for others who, Chris, I know Cassie as well, and Carla, I know, has been involved in different ways. But this is a really critical and unique time in our district's history in terms of having folks who really are and have been deeply engaged, can ask critical questions, and help with transparency for the community in terms of that communication and really questioning things, so that we are making sure we are clear, each of us as individuals as well as a board, and that decisions that are being made are clear for the community too. So I'm supportive of a couple of different iterations of folks who are on this list.
Okay, so everybody can have 2 comments before I call for a vote. I'm just going to draw the line there because I know this board.
I was actually just going to ask if we could resolve the motion, because we're now in the territory of talking about other people on the list as well. But we have a motion that lists a specific individual, and I feel a little awkward about talking about all the other great people when we have a motion that we probably should vote on, so that we can.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
Yeah. Okay. Chris and Sammy, you can have your second comment.
Obviously, this is a difficult conversation, and I don't bring up things often that I know are going to be controversial. And I've also put a lot of thought into this, because I don't like to bring up things that are controversial if I think it's just a me thing. And so I want that said, and also that I agree, especially, Shauna, you worded it so well, that I too welcome different perspectives, and I think good conversations and messy conversations are great when we're trying to really center in on what is best for kids. You're right, Stephanie has been here quite a bit, and I do appreciate that. I just, the other thing that Shauna said that I want to reemphasize is respectful conversations. And that's my biggest concern, and that's what I want to make sure, because I think when we're having messy conversations, that once it becomes a conversation with lack of respect, then we don't get the job done. And I want us to make sure that we're focusing on getting our goals reached and getting good outcomes for a very difficult task.
Before you go really quick, Sammy, Lauren, we have guidelines on our meetings for the budget committee, right?
We have the legal guidelines of what the budget committee can do. We also have the budget parameters. I have not seen where we have used the board norms and applied them explicitly to the budget committee. that is something that I would be interested in exploring. Maybe that's something we can do at the orientation meeting. And I don't want that to be like the full focus of the orientation meeting either, but I think establishing those would be great, because it's actually not the board, it is a committee, and so I'm not sure that those directly tie without us specifically like doing that work to bring it into that space. So we do have guidelines. We don't, like, it's not operating agreements, I guess.
Okay.
One consistent practice we've utilized has been when folks have asked for additional information, that there's agreement amongst the budget committee because of the scope of work and staff time. That has been one thing that we've done consistently.
But we do use Robert's Rules of Order on the budget committee meetings as well as our meetings, and those do have conduct requirements and stuff too. I just wanted to remind folk about that part. Okay, guys, Sammy.
Yeah, thank you. I have a few remarks, and I'll try to be as focused as possible to the motion. But quick comment, I really appreciate the suggestions of alternative names. I will also support any alternative name that my colleagues want to push forward, put forward. And for the virtue of any elected office, we don't choose our colleagues. I'm grateful for the colleagues I work with, and we bring different ideas. And on the budget committee, we have those really hard conversations, yet they are productive, and they move us forward with respect, decorum, and of course we can have rules around decorum, but definitely it is crucial for any public body. We choose people who think differently and bring different ideas, elevate voices that are not heard. And my intention of the alternative motion is exactly that. And my motivation behind supporting any alternative name is exactly that. I'll be very candid. I will do my best to support whoever this board will decide to appoint, and I think we will do the work for our community. I'm reminded, don't talk about individuals, but their not even the actions, the ideas. Or something like that. It's like really try to go high level. But when we debate candidates, I need to state a few brief things. I really appreciate Mr. Chris Blacker's service in the community. Great attributes, serving the school and going above and beyond. I heard about really going above and beyond supporting the kids' education and helping with equipment and other things that's really made the school better. And I think he's a great man helping his community in that regard. And when we navigated over the last 12 months the process of closing schools, there was a sentiment of a board member can unilaterally choose which school to close, and I did not think that was a productive conversation earlier this year when a school was named by Mr. Blacker. And that school was Letitia Carson and I believe Catherine Jones Harrison, if I'm not mistaken. And when Sheldon was proposed during the original proposal, he advocated for the closure of Letitia Carson and Catherine Jones Harrison, or at least that's what I heard from community members hearing from him. And then it was reported to me back after we had a revised option. That proposal around advocating for Letitia Carson, Catherine Jones Harrison to be closed no longer was there. And so I did not see consistency. I saw disparaging remarks about one of the trade unions as well. And I think that's not respectful or productive. It is hard, but also I expect the hard conversation to come hand in hand with these things. For those reasons, I really intend after this meeting to reach out to Mr. Blacker, thank him regardless of what we decide, ask him to continue to get involved. I think for the budget committee, it's a privilege and a right, and I want to give him the grace as much as I have been giving the grace. I had no involvement with the school district when I was appointed. I was nobody, graduate students, and with zero education experience in the public education in the United States, because after kindergarten we left out of the country. So I think everybody is eligible and qualified. My understanding of the statements on social media during the past few months have made me feel we will have probably not productive conversations, and I really wish I'm mistaken, but I just want to be very candid about why I'm prioritizing someone who may give us hard conversation, bring experience, but also respectful and productive.
Judah, that's his last comment. Judah,
And it's quick. I don't have.
then I'm
I'm not
calling.
on social media. I don't have personal experience. I just know that the one that I'm holding the flag for is Heather's been really involved, and why I just prefer her is because she's got experience with academic budgets, which are really different. So it's, for me, it's purely a that's just so very, very convenient that you're really involved and you have experience with academic budgets.
I'm gonna go ahead and call for the vote, and just want to remind everybody that we're talking about the budget committee and the qualifications to do those meetings. Not everything around everything in somebody's experience levels, and so I just wanted to remind everybody of that. So it has. I'm gonna say it has been moved by and seconded by. And Sammy, I need you to reread what your motion was, because I don't have it in front of me. So it's been moved by Sammy and seconded by Chris.
To move Cassandra Inman and Nancy J. Larson to be appointed to the Budget Committee for 3-year terms ending June 30, 2028. In addition, move to appoint Carla L. Wa to a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027.
Judah.
Aye.
Sammy.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Shauna.
Nay.
Therese.
Nay.
Bernie.
Nay.
And I vote nay. Motion does not carry. Is there an alternative motion?
Okay, I move that we appoint Cassandra Inman and Chris Blacker to be appointed to the Budget Committee for 3-year terms ending June 30th, 2028. In addition, I move to appoint Carla L. Ho to a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027.
Second.
It's been moved by Bernie, seconded by Therese. Is there any discussion? Yes, I do have.
Okay. Well, not every part of being on the board is fun or comfortable, and we are in one of those moments right now. We have a motion in front of us. I would like to first encourage us to stick with the motion that's in front of us, and to make a decision about that motion before we decide to advocate for alternate names. Let's have this discussion about the folks that are part of this particular motion. I also would like to, during our meeting, during the consolidation meeting, a lot of things occurred that were challenging. Some comments were challenging, and I think I would be remiss if I held the public to greater standard of their conduct and their comments than I even ask our board to be held to. We cannot make this decision on information that we maybe heard from someplace but we didn't read ourselves or we didn't hear ourselves. I could say I'm not aware of anybody's, well, in this case, Mr. Blacker's opinion about whether to close or not to close Letitia Carson. What I know is this: I don't have anything in front of me that says that, and I'm not going to evaluate that possible thing that might have happened that I wasn't there for, and maybe have heard from somebody who may or may not have been there for it. I'm not going to weigh that in deciding whether or not. We have every board member has been the subject of a public conversation in which what we've said was taken out of context. So I don't want anybody to assume that what they heard by proxy through somebody else is exactly what I said or what I meant, and I'm not going to do that to those comments. I would like to have conversation about the 3 applicants if people have things to say. I personally do not want to participate in discussion about alternates until we have done something about the motion that's in front of us.
Therese, I will let you know that he did say that about Letitia Carson, but I don't think it has anything to do with serving on the budget committee, quite honestly. So just
agreed, but also that's not documentation in front of us, and so I think we need to be careful about what we draw on and what we cite, because we don't have that available to us. And so I'm not saying it did or didn't happen. I'm just saying that
it's not part of the application process.
It's not information that we've been provided to make this particular decision. And so I want to caution us from weighing those factors when they're not provided as part of the application, and we don't have it in front of us. That's all. Whether it happened or not is not germane to what we do right now.
Judah?
About the applicants in front of us, just to return this to the more boring conversation, I think they are all qualified. I think that each and every one of them has demonstrated a capacity and willingness to wade through it is a great budget report, but it is long.
It's a lot of numbers.
It's all the numbers. I don't have experience with Ms. Wah, but she's the CFO, so I think she can handle it. And that the Ms. Inman, has been on this budget committee and already demonstrated to us her commitment and ability. And the little that I know about Mr. Blacker is he's waded through lots of information, and we're gonna hand him a giant binder of stuff. And I think he will do his due diligence and wade through the giant binder of stuff and talk to us about it.
Other comments? Go ahead, Shauna.
Something that I'm just sitting with in terms of, I appreciate your bringing us back to the boring conversation, Judah, but I think that I'm just sitting with in terms of not necessarily a discomfort, but something that we ask when folks come for public comment is that you can come and share but not speak about individual people. And we're here today deciding on the merit of individual people, which is part of the role of this decision. And yet, Lauren, you've made recommendations for us based on folks having met the criteria and the requirements. And I know that there are different comments that have come up and different concerns and worries, and that we're sitting here in education where one of the core tenets of what we are here for is that people can learn and grow. And so looking at how do we give people the opportunity to do that, and how do we give ourselves that modeling and opportunity to learn and grow along with them too, is an opportunity for us. And I think to the concerns that have come up around, will conversations be respectful? Will conversations be productive? Can they be? That just making sure we have really strong guardrails around that in terms of what are the norms for our conversations together, how we listen to one another. If things go to or feel like they're going to a harmful and non-productive place, what are the steps that we take with any board member, any budget committee member that comes into the space to make sure that we're doing that in a way that is kind, clear, and can return us to productive conversations. So
I think it would just be good, like whoever's on the budget committee, if we just like had a Robert's Rules 101 kind of handout, that way they understood those pieces. That just might be good in general practice, that we have that in the binder. They have some quick guides on it and everything, because that could help alleviate some of the concerns that have been raised by colleagues, and I understand and respect your concerns as well. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Any other comments?
So just want to conclude. Thank you for this conversation. It's hard. It's really hard. Like when we're talking in front of the public about choosing our colleagues on a budget committee, $100+ million are in the hands of the individuals who are choosing to decide with us on how to do this work. I will be supporting the outcome of this decision, just knowing, and thank you, Therese, knowing the things that I have seen firsthand. I can't in good faith move forward, having other alternative options that I believe are going to be hard and productive. That being said, I have my commitment to work collaboratively with whoever we choose, given the outcome of this motion or a later motion.
Any other comments? You all ready to? Can I look at yours? Because yours is bigger. It has been. Wait, who seconded it? Therese. Okay. It has been moved by Bernie to appoint Cassandra Inman and Chris Blacker to a 3-year term ending June 28. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. I'm so sorry. I was reading the action. Has been moved by Bernie that Cassandra Inman and Chris Blacker be appointed to the Budget Committee for 3-year terms ending June 30th, 2028. In addition, moved to appoint Carla L. Watt to a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027. And it was seconded by Therese. Judah?
Aye.
Sammy?
Nay.
Chris?
Nay.
Shauna?
Aye.
Therese?
Aye.
Bernie?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you for your work on that, Lauren. I just wanted to say you have not let us down with your appointments so far, and trusting the process. And then that was all from the things that were pulled out of consolidated action. Does anybody would like to make a motion on consolidated action?
Well, because we did that, do we have to take that out of consolidated action? So no, we took it out. We already took it out. So
We took it out.
Take it out?
Yeah, you have to. Sorry, technically you have to take it out, but because the consolidated action is consistent with the motion itself, it doesn't matter. We will be basically reaffirming the last motion if we say I move to approve consolidated action. But usually if we vote on something after we take it out, we exclude it in the consolidated
So
action.
instead of saying items as submitted, you would say all items except for budget committee appointments, because came out of a. So that's basically.
Does I just say line A?
No, you need to say the thing. Please say the thing.
I move to adopt consolidated actions as proposed, excluding budget committee appointments which have already been voted upon.
Second.
It's been moved by Judah and seconded by Sammy. Any discussion? Okay, it has been moved by Judah and seconded by Sammy to adopt consolidated action items. What was the rest of it?
Excluding budget committee appointments,
Thank
which
you.
have already been voted on.
Thank you. I knew there was more words at the end, so thank you very much. Judah?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shauna?
Aye.
Therese?
Aye.
Bernie?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes. Okay. Consolidated information. As a reminder, the items under this portion of the agenda are for discussion. Would anyone like to discuss an item in consolidated information, which is the October financial summary unaudited? Sammy?
Very quick so we can adjourn soon. One question regarding the 2026 financial summary, 2025-26 financial summary. I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure I understand it correctly, and also we can share it with the community. The beginning fund balance of every year, or the ending fund balance of every year, range between $16 and $19 million. We're anticipating or forecasting an ending fund balance around $13 million this year. Could you explain if that decline is huge, number one, or is substantial? Number two, what does it mean to have $13 million ending fund balance?
Sure. So the 13, this is obviously an projection since we are only in December, but we are projected to end with $13.1 million ending fund balance, or about 13.4%. As you know, policy DA dictates that we end the year with at least 12.5% of operating revenue, so we are within that target. Yes, and if you look at the actual, like the financial report, we have been higher in previous years. That fund balance was continually raised during COVID when we had all these influx of additional dollars related to that, and really minimal operational expenses as our building stayed empty for quite some time. And so we did move our fund balance up closer to that 19% range. And we have been operating in a deficit every single year since we came back to in-person learning from the COVID pandemic. So while, yes, we are still over the 12.5%, that's all been projected as part of the plan for the next year, multiple years. That fund balance then becomes the beginning fund balance that we start our year with. We would never want to spend down every penny of our general fund in a year. And that's where our jumping off point for the next year. So we're within policy limits. Yes, we've brought it down that was intentional. I think that answers all your questions.
It does. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Any other questions? Oh, Judah.
Well, since we're talking about this, just to reiterate what you said probably 24 times, the second year of the biennium is always more expensive than the first, right? Because you have to pass things through.
The next year is always more expensive than the previous year, regardless of where we're at in the biennium. But yes, I mean, more so to balance out the revenues and expenditures is more tricky in the second year because our costs increase more than what our revenue increases in a biennium.
Thank you. Any other questions on the financials? Okay, thanks, Lauren. Next item on the agenda is board member comments. Do any board members have any comments they would like to make? Shauna? I see you shaking your head, yes. Did you need to go? Anybody over here? Okay. No, I get to go last. I'm the board chair.
I know, you are.
Go ahead. Sammy,
Right.
then Shauna, then Therese, then me, and Chris. Okay, well, let's go like this.
All right. I just want to say thank you to staff who are working hand in hand with our community and families navigating challenges around immigration. We talked about this briefly, but I just want to recognize that children, regardless of their family status and regardless of their own status, have endured challenges, and they're thriving in our schools because of the care that we provide. Those are not hypothetical or political statements. Those are real children who have been impacted by the care of our staff and by the decisions that this board has made, and frankly that the Supreme Court has made way back then in the 70s, that no matter what's your family situation, if you're a child, you deserve education and you deserve the safety to get the education. And I just want to recognize that this is personal. This is families that we know, our neighbors, and I'm just grateful that the community cares, and I want us to keep talking about what we're doing. We can't really be silent about it or normalize the uncertainty that we're dealing with. Certainty for children to go back home and see their families and go back to school and be safe is something that we should not take for granted. And unfortunately, some of the kids in our community have lost that certainty, sometimes forever, or at least for the foreseeable future. So I just want to sit with that and recognize it and center, no matter how things can be tough, this is one of the core things that I really hope we stick to, ensuring that our children are going to be taken care of. No matter what happens in terms of immigration challenges that we face or enforcement that we may endure from the federal government that may actually impact us negatively. And I know it's going to cost us more money, more resources, but that's the right thing to do, is to stand by the children no matter what.
I have a couple things. First of all, I wanted to thank our district's crisis team. I know they've been very busy. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of crisis situations going on, and they've been on top of things supporting our kids and our families. I know they've been at multiple schools after a death. Also, they've been supporting Letitia Carson and Sheldon. And I know, Byron, you're here, and your mental health manager and your team as well. And I've heard, because I've checked on staff members and just asked if they're feeling supported, and they are. I also want to talk to Ryan a little bit about, I'm hearing a lot of concerns of staff about just that waiting game of when am I going to know, where am I going? I was at Bessie Coleman when it was announced there that their principal is moving, and a lot of what I saw and heard were it was like kind of a wave hit them of sadness, and then also another wave of, okay, that means I might be moving too. and just that uncertainty of it all, and hoping that we can get them some answers soon so that they're not doing this waiting game, and what that process will be. So I don't know if you can answer that since we're doing board comments, but no.
First. So again, that information preference sheet will go out to staff tomorrow. And there's going to be open for a period of time into early February, actually, because that gives folks a lot of time to think about decisions that they need to make. It also gives us time to work on giving out more information about the junior high and the K-8 model and some of those pieces. So that will take some time. In the meantime, our HR team has been doing presentations to staff, talking about things like seniority and those processes, and also being present in the schools as a drop-in so individual staff members can come and talk to them. We've focused primarily on Letitia Carson, Sheldon, and Linus Pauling thus far. We've since had requests from Catherine Jones Harrison and from Mountain View for that presentation to happen there. I'm hearing the concern coming from Bessie Coleman. They are trying to get it out in front of staffs as quickly as possible to share that information to try to fill that gap in the interim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I know it's not easy for everyone. I also wanted to just show appreciation to Lou, especially at our last meeting, our very long meeting where we made some very difficult decisions. I thought you held your role as leader with such calmness, and yet you kept things in order and really did this with such a sense of integrity, even though I know it was really difficult. And I just really want to appreciate that. I've heard from several people in the community that said, wow, like you did that so well. So I just want to thank you for doing that. I also want to make a comment. We've heard this several times through emails and things that some people felt pressure to make that decision, and I just, like, I'm speaking for myself. I did not feel any pressure, and I hope, I didn't get the sense that anybody was feeling pressure to make a decision, but I think that may be something that we need to talk about, because I wouldn't want that to be happening on our board. And then also I was going to say, I just hope, like I appreciated, Ryan, in your report today that you're giving us updates, and that just keep happening about all the things going on, because there's been lots of concerns about transportation, and are we having conversations with the city, and how are we dealing with all those things? Can you keep reporting that and letting us know? Because I'm curious, I want to know. I know our community members want to know as well.
Yes.
Just to alert the community to concerns about, so as everyone here is aware, we have a community health center in Lincoln, and that community health center provides multiple locations, and due to changes in federal legislation, they're going to be limiting what types of services that they can provide. And they are also suffering from a change to the drug reimbursement laws. So just to be mindful that with the projection of approximately 200,000 Oregonians set to lose their insurance next year, and community health centers being the only place to access non-emergency care, if you cannot financially afford care, to be keeping an eye out for our community health centers and supporting them to the best of your ability.
Shauna?
Thanks. I just have a couple of things. One, I was just going to build on what you shared, Chris, around staff and concerns and worries, and something that I've heard from staff as well as from families too, with so much uncertainty in the year ahead, so many questions that are coming up, so many unanswered questions that folks are waiting on, hoping for, and looking to, that how challenging it is to focus on some of the really amazing things that are happening right now in schools while also looking ahead. And I really heard that come through in some of the conversations that we were able to have with the middle school and high school principals, of just that appreciation of being able to also focus on some of the really wonderful things happening now. And I think staff, I know, are carrying a lot of the weight of holding back their own feelings and worries and uncertainties or anxieties while trying to make the very best school experiences every single day for students. So I just want to give a shout out to them, as well as to families who are doing the same. And tonight we heard from several community members. I just wanted to also express thanks to the community for continuing to come forward, for continuing to ask questions, for continuing to send in emails or requests to meet to talk through what is happening, what are we learning, what are the unanswered questions, because even if there is a separation of boards saying, well, we do this part, but we don't do operations, understanding and knowing what's being asked, what's being done across all of these different levels is so important. And having the community come forward and continue to ask those questions helps make sure those things are being addressed and happening and being communicated as well and quickly and thoughtfully as possible. So I just wanted to express that gratitude. There was also something that came up in several community comments tonight that I think it's important to name and just to clarify. Several community members mentioned that the state's projected budget shortfall was not as dire as what one of the worries was, and that there was a perception that that might have changed our $4 million budget deficit. And I'd like to clarify that. Is that something that I can ask in board right now with district staff, just in terms of, because my understanding is that it does not change our budget deficit. What it changes is that the expectation that we're going to have an additional cut that's unexpected in February, it may impact that's not as bad as the unexpected number we're waiting on. So I just wanted to clarify that, because it seemed like there was a hope that if we didn't actually have a $4 million budget deficit, we could do something different right now. And my understanding is that that actually isn't our reality.
We still have that deficit.
Okay.
It just means that we may not see as additional reductions. The next economic forecast, it will be in February during the short session, and I think that will be the benchmark for what the legislature decides to do. And at the same time, it was good news, but it does not change that for us locally. It just again means that there are cuts that the department are planned to make at 2.5 and 5% across departments actually, and that may not happen now.
Thank you. And I can see how having that thought that maybe something had changed with this immediate budget deficit could lead to another outcome at this moment in time, and just wanted to acknowledge for the community too how those waves of hope that come with that information, and just making sure that we're clarifying anything we can whenever we can. So thank you. And thank you.
And just to add on to what you're saying, and then I'll go over to you, is that if you all have any questions about some of that stuff that comes out, feel free to ask us, because that's something we can answer. That's not operational. That's actually, and we all get the same OSBA updates, and some of us get the legislative policy updates as well on top of that. So we can explain that to you all if you want. We just want to make sure you all know that, and that we're not trying to like fact check people or anything like that. We just want to provide you with the information you need to. So just please know that.
I think glad that people took a moment to clarify that, because the state agencies that I come in contact with in my work are just grateful that it means that the cut isn't going to be as big for the expected cut, not their current budget. Their current budget is not necessarily adequate for the work. But the concern was that with $373 million deficit, there'd be another round of cuts. And now they're like, maybe there won't be as big of a round of cuts. But DHS and ODE, they're still planning contingency budgets for if February doesn't look any better, and so or takes even a turn for the worse. And so we expect that at least some of our state agencies will still see cuts. In addition to what we don't have in our coffers right now to cover the known expenses, that there could be further reductions. So it is a very precarious, no, that's not even the right word. It's a very scary time trying to figure out how to plan programming for families in our communities in this particular setting. To that end, I wanted to give a thank you to the crisis team. The SNAP crisis in November was significant. It was very disruptive to to many community members. I appreciated the responsiveness of our district, our foundation, and we are about to do this again because in 22 days, we will have a whole slew of people who are now not insured, and the not having health insurance will find its way into our classrooms in about 10 minutes. That's how long it's going to take from when families aren't insured until our teachers are dealing with the lack of insurance as a reality in that child's family inside that classroom. And so we want to prepare ourselves and think about what are we going to do when the services that our families have relied on are gone. Medicaid reimbursements will change for families that can't qualify for Medicaid as secondary insurance. And so the ripple effect of this will be significant. And I just want to encourage our community to be mindful that there are some around us who cannot presume that important medications like blood pressure medication or insulin is going to be available to them on January 1st. And I think this community is full of compassion and creativity. And I hope that we come at that concern with the same energy that we came to the SNAP crisis. I wanted to share something positive. It happened a little bit ago, but there hasn't been a meeting where it felt right to share it, and I wanted to share. This is something that warms my heart. So about three weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago now, it was a Sunday afternoon, and I got a text message from a youth in our community who knows my family. And he texted me and he sent me a picture and he said, "Hey, I was out taking a walk and I saw this on a bench at Crescent Valley High School. And it was something really, really inappropriate and very hurtful written about another person." And he texted me and he said, "Miss Treese, what can we do about this?" And I said, "Oh, I'm so glad that you reached out to me." He said, "I'm really worried about this person because they've put this person's name out there, they've put this phone number out there, and they've said these really terrible things about this person." And I said, "Well, it's what I'm going to do. I'm going to email the photo to the principal at CV, and I'm going to ask them. And because they're busy and they might not have time, I will go out there tomorrow with my own sander and I'll sand it off if the school doesn't have the time to do something." So I sent it off on a Sunday afternoon. About 15 minutes after I sent the email, I got a reply back from Principal McGee. He said, "Thank you so much for sharing this with me. We're going to get this taken care of tomorrow morning. It will be gone before the kids come back to school." So I texted the student back and I said, "Hey, just good news. It's going to be taken care of. Thank you for letting me know." And he said, "Well, I'm so glad you were able to do that." And I called the person. I called the number and I said, "I saw this written on a bench. And so if this is you, I'm sorry that people said this about you. And I've reported this and it's going to be taken care of. And if you need anything, you can call this board member." I love that so much. One, the responsiveness of the district, the quickness with which they replied, that we are in our community, we are raising some kids who can see the things that are not okay, and they are able to respond, and they'll bring the leadership if we give them the space to do it. This kid was like, "We're going to solve this one way or the other, and I'm not going to wait for an adult to solve it. I'm going to get out there." I love that. We talked about, the pros and cons of calling a number that you don't know and what could go wrong with that, and how that, it was a good teaching moment. But more than anything, that's what's happening in our schools. And that warms my heart because I have a kid in our schools, and someday that could be him who sees something, or it could be him whose name is on something. And when I think about the bias incident reporting that's happening, I think that only gets better when our kids are checking each other for their conduct. That's how it will happen. And it is happening, and it did happen. And so I'm not going to name this student because I didn't ask his permission to do that. But I can say that he's a pretty fantastic kid, and I'm grateful that he's an example in my child's life, and that he was an example in my life. And so I wanted to share that because there's so many things that are hard right now. But this one thing that was not hard, that was hard, but also ended really well, has carried me through the last 5 weeks, knowing that that is happening in our district. And I wanted you all to get to be part of that too. So thank you for letting me share that. I don't have any other reports or anything else to report out on.
Thanks. Thank you. I was just gonna say what I had already said, which is like, please feel free, community members, to reach out to us with questions, and reiterate what Shauna said about it may seem like we can't answer questions because some of them we literally cannot, but it does help us know what's not clear to the community, and that's really important for us to be able to see things that need to be worked on, and try to connect people with folk and everything. I did want to also, in after our decision that was made on the 13th, it's finals week, y'all. Sorry, at my work, and so I'm like really tired. And we're way over on our meeting, so I'm going to keep this short. At our last meeting, we didn't have the most current report cards on the schools, and I did want to point out that the Letitia Carson number did go up, and I just wanted to say like that the families in the community had been saying that, and then it was backed by that data. So I just wanted to acknowledge that piece. And some of the other numbers also went up. So I still stand by, like, we have a problem in our district with students navigating poverty across the district, and that number did bump up a little bit more than it was. So I just wanted to, in the spirit of like holding ourselves to what our data says, to point that out. And I strongly believe that the students will, when they're in the other schools, will still be supported with the services. I did have a question about our policy that we already looked at last year, the bullying policy, but I think that's something that we should talk about again as a board. And I had a short conversation with Ryan about, but at a later time. We have a lot going on right now. And I think that's pretty much it. I hope everybody has a good rest of your evening. We also, this is probably, I'm going to be more on it with the time, just to pre-warn the board. I'm going back to the normal Lou, as in the red light's on, time to move on, because we can't just go over every single time. Unless, I mean, that was important what we were talking about though. So at 9:47, the meeting is adjourned.